Bonjour à tous. Hello, welcome to all of you. Bienvenido a todo el mundo. For this session, we are offering you simultaneous translation that will be trilingual in English, French, and Spanish. To listen in English, you can click on the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen and select the English channel. If you need any technical assistance, please write to us to the chat at the bottom of the screen and we will answer you quickly. Pour cette session, nous sommes heureux de vous proposer la traduction simultanée en 3 langues, anglais, français, espagnol. Pour écouter en français, vous pouvez cliquer sur l'icône d'interprétation en bas de votre écran et choisir le canal français. Si vous avez un problème technique, merci de nous écrire dans le fil de discussion également en bas de l'écran et nous vous répondrons très vite. Para esta sesión, nos complace ofrecer traducción simultánea en 3 idiomas, inglés, francés y español. Para escuchar en español, puede hacer clic en el icono de interpretación en la parte inferior de su pantalla y elegir el canal en español. Si tiene un problema técnico, por favor, escríbanos en el hilo de la discusión, también en la parte inferior de la pantalla, y le responderemos muy rápidamente. Parfait, maintenant que tout le monde se comprend, je me présente, Paul Lu, secrétaire exécutif de l'initiative 4 pour 1000. Avant de céder la parole à notre président, M. Ibrahim MAYAKI, laissez-moi vous apporter quelques précisions techniques sur notre session. Si vous avez des questions techniques, merci de les écrire dans le fil de discussion, le chat en bas de votre écran, et nous vous répondrons le plus rapidement possible. Si vous avez des questions sur pour nos conférenciers durant la partie forum après le segment de haut niveau, nous vous invitons à les poser directement dans la rubrique Q&A, questions et réponses, en bas de votre écran. Nous nous ferons l'interprète de vos questions auprès des orateurs. Nous sommes très nombreux aujourd'hui et nous avons énormément d'intervenants présents avec nous. Nous allons faire de notre possible afin que tout se déroule bien. Merci de votre patience et de votre compréhension. Je laisse la parole à présent à M. Ibrahim MAYAKI, président du consortium des membres de l'initiative 4 pour 1000. Monsieur MAYAKI, c'est à vous.
Ok. Merci. Est-ce que vous me voyez? C'est parfait.
Non, je ne sais pas si on vous voit.
Normalement, on devrait me...
Oui. On vous voit, oui.
Très bien. Parfait. Parfait. Merci, Dr. Lu. It's a pleasure and an honor to open these sessions. So, honorable ministers, presidents, CEOs, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is a privilege for me to welcome you to this rather special edition of our annual Per1000 Initiative Day. We should have been in Glasgow last month on the sidelines of COP 2016, but in the end, we find ourselves on our own, connected by the invisible link of technology and the internet because of a pandemic whose magnitude and consequences nobody had foreseen. These very particular circumstances, which have already caused far too much unhappiness, and unhappiness is the correct word, throughout the world, sowing death and desolation in almost all countries, have forced us to reflect on our relationship to our natural environment, our lifestyles, our dependencies on others for our food, and our economy. Changes are taking place. Many changes are taking place. And our perception of the world and society is being altered as a result. Let's hope that it will be for the best by refocusing on what is essential for our future, the health of the soil and the health of the concept of One Health, but also the indispensable international solidarity that we must show at all times and towards everyone, because our life, our survival depend on others wherever they are. Since the beginning of the 19th and even before, we have been working on sustainable development of our human society on our planet, whose resources are not unlimited. Our resources are indeed very much limited. The United Nations Convention for Sustainable Development has allowed us to reflect on our development model, while respecting the balance between social, environmental, and economic pillars. None of them should in reality take precedence over any of the others. It is an interconnectedness which exists between the three pillars. If the change in our software regarding our development has been effective, at least we can hope so. Since this period, it is clear today that the notion of linear stability over time, generation after generation, which the adjective sustainable implies, no longer makes much sense. Around us, the observation of a continuous degradation of our natural, social, and economic environment is now obvious. We must once again change our development model, moving from sustainable development to what is called regenerative development. Indeed, the extractive mode of our production must not only become cyclical in the short term, with indispensable recycling of all our waste, but also regenerative. This is the key word for the years to come, regeneration. This means improving all the elements essential to our development: water, biodiversity, air, and above all, the soil, the origin of life on Earth for plants, animals, and humans. So our century will have to be regenerative, or it will hardly be. This is all the meaning that we wish to give to our actions within the 4 per 1000 initiative, working on the regeneration of soils to improve their health, thanks in particular to the carbon captured in the atmosphere by plants through photosynthesis and returned to the soil in the form of organic plant matter or animal origin. The agroecological movement must accelerate with an increased development of conservation agriculture, organic agriculture, but also now by going further with regenerative agriculture and agroforestry. This is why it is important to have a clear definition of the regenerative agriculture in order to make sure that we are all talking about the same thing. We can always discuss or even argue about the name of the initiative or about its annual objective of 4 per 1000. Talk about sequestering or rather storing carbon in soils, whether or not to reach the 0.4% annual growth of these carbon stocks, depending on the agro-pedoclimatic conditions. But what matters at the end is the dynamic created around the initiative, the direction which is taken, the paradigm shift in our agriculture, and above all, the political will that needs to happen in order for this change to become effective. And when I refer to political will, I'm not only alluding to high-level policy makers. I'm alluding to everyone who is in the ladder of policy design and implementation. So I'm alluding to a collective political will, because politics is not the monopoly of politicians. So our work wants to be the spur that encourages and justifies these profound changes with a science-based approach, but also the catalyst for individual and collective actions in this direction. In particular, it is the meaning of the strategic plan of the initiative and its implementation that is everyone's business. We still have a long way to go, but I'm happy to see that things are changing. Not only farmers and NGOs are working on regenerative agriculture, but now also international organizations, policymakers, and private companies. We are moving in the right direction, but we are only at the beginning of a journey. We have a lot to do to face all the challenges that this profound change in our agriculture is supposed to address. Climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, biodiversity conservation, air, water, and soil regeneration, and above all, food security for soon 9 billion people on our planet. According to FAO, in the next 30 years, we will need to produce the amount of food which was produced in the last 3,000 years. In the last 3,000 years. This is the general meaning that we wanted to give to this fourth Per1000 Initiative Day through the general theme that we have chosen: soil health to fight against climate change in the context of One Health concept and the necessary international solidarity. Nous sommes impatients de vous écouter, vous tous, décideurs politiques, scientifiques, producteurs, représentants de la société civile, entrepreneurs, sur vos réalisations, vos objectifs, vos espoirs et vos engagements. Merci à vous tous de contribuer à l'immense tâche qui est devant nous et de partager ensemble le long chemin vers la régénération de nos sols par une agriculture régénérative. Je vous remercie. And now it is my pleasure to thank the translators. I know usually you thank the translators at the end of our sessions, but I would like to thank them at the beginning for how much they do contribute to the quality of our interaction. So now it is my pleasure to invite for his inspirational speech, Mr. Finian MAKEPEACE, co-founder, policy director, and lead educator of Kiss the Ground. If he's ready, over to you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim. You said so much of what I hope that we can get as an alignment for everyone here today. It's such a pleasure and an honor to get this opportunity to speak with you all. There's so many of my heroes on this call, on this Zoom event today. So thank you for having me. My name is Finian and I'm from the organization Kiss the Ground. And our mission is that people are awakened to the possibilities of regeneration. And I wanted to start really quick with an update from Kiss the Ground, the film, the movie that was launched on September 20th. The world has had access to a feature-length documentary called Kiss the Ground that features so many of our colleagues, so many people that folks on this call know of and have worked with. And it really shares this idea on a global level to so many folks who had maybe heard about it or were just starting to hear about this amazing opportunity. And we wanted to share from myself on behalf of the organization that this movie shares a part of the story. It is not the entire story. It does not represent the entire story of what regenerative agriculture is for the world. And we just want to make that clear. I wanted to talk today about the movement and give everyone here acknowledgement for what has happened. I've only been involved with the soil health and regenerative agriculture movement for 8 years, and what has happened in that short time is nothing short of extraordinary. And I want everyone to feel that momentum that has built and see what is emerging and look around them, that this year, 2020, has been so difficult, but at the time that it's been so difficult, it has created a listening and an opportunity. But this has also been building, and we've all been a part of creating the conditions and the opportunity for so many people around the world to access this idea and this movement. So what we're hearing, and I'm sure so many of you on this call are hearing now, is where are we each stepping in to our role and our necessary role to be the invitation, to open the tent so that more can get involved, to take on that we are sharing these ideas as much as we can to new communities, learning from new leaders who are stepping into this space and calling to attention things that had been outside of the regenerative movement that preceded it. Where are we listening intentionally to voices that have been left out? And when are we committing to making sure all of these things are happening now? And that's really where we're seeing the potential for all of us to gather. One of the things that gets the ground that we want to be sure is emphasized going into 2021 is that this movement, the regenerative agriculture movement, is making sure that indigenous knowledge, place-based wisdom is brought up to be regarded as just as necessary and important as the books and ideas around holistic planning, and just as necessary as the science behind soil or the technology that's allowing us to see what is happening. We have to, in our opinion, take that so seriously for us as an entire humanity to achieve these audacious goals of regenerating our planet. Our theory of change is really that, and most people's theory of change really is that our views do dictate our actions, and therefore the results or outcomes of all of our lives. We're still imploring each and every one of the people involved in this movement, new or old, to understand the power of being a carrier of the message, to create the conditions where others can access this idea, to have that opportunity to have those aha moments of the possibilities of regeneration. So we're encouraging each of you to continue to stretch, no matter how much action you're taking, no matter where you are in this movement, to continue and realize your potential to give access to this view to others. As we know in the Albert Einstein quote that it says so well, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. Sustainable think, as was just mentioned, thank you so well right before me here. Sustainable think, unfortunately, isn't going to do, and it's killing us in so many ways. So we're needing to all collectively push for a move to regenerative thinking. And the good news is it's good for everyone. So there's not any bad stuff that comes from that. But we're looking at a reality where in most cultures and most civilizations over the last 10,000 years, obviously there are so many great examples where this wasn't happening, but most human civilizations, to create their needs, to produce their needs, have been degenerating land over the past 10,000 years. So recognizing where we are globally to think about sustainability as an option, it really doesn't make sense. And that was said right before I got on by Dr. Ibrahim. So regeneration has to be where we go. And then sustainability makes sense. As a little catchphrase, we say sustainability is just ahead of its time. And we hope you can carry that to your audience as well. This is something that we share with folks to give them access to a different way of having it symbolized in people's heads. If degenerative is the downward curve, Sustainable is the circle of put back what you take out. Regenerative can be a symbol that takes seriously where we are now and understands that it is building and creating something that is actually functioning at a higher state. So the spiral that goes out. And I'm sure all of you have seen this, but we're talking about a global emergency. We're losing 30 million acres a year of farmable land to degeneration. And now we have a situation where not only in the last 40 years, we've lost 1/3 of our farmable land, but now we're dealing with 75% of land being degraded on the globe. So everyone who's here and everyone out there who's joining this movement is making the call to regenerate Earth. And when I'm out there training advocates from around the world to carry this message, one of the tools I share with them as a great analogy is to talk about what's happening. We're sustaining broken. Our land has been broken. And so when we take seriously the word broken and understand that it's in a condition that's broken, we're then looking at everything we're doing, no matter what technology we're providing, no matter what new advances in farming we have, everything essentially becomes a Band-Aid on top of a broken system. And the analogy I was going to point to here is the cup. This is a picture of a broken cup. The cup, if you ask any audience, is designed to hold a liquid. When it breaks, it doesn't hold the liquid anymore. Therefore, it's not functioning. So when we grasp that sustainability or trying to farm in the conditions we have now, broken soil, we're essentially trying to best utilize broken pieces to have some great performance come out the other end. The idea is that this not only is broken now, but it's becoming more and more broken on its own. We have runaway degeneration occurring where ecosystems are so degraded that they aren't turning around when they're just on their own rest. They're not doing okay when they're in conservation. So what we're talking about is regenerative agriculture can change this. And the simple analogy again is a cup that's broken can be glued back together. And you can have a cup that once again performs how it's supposed to function. Soil is pretty much the same. And the news is that the carbon that's currently in our atmosphere is the glue. It gets pumped through the plant, through photosynthesis, shared with all the microbes, as everyone knows. But this glue that these microbes create glue these soil particles together, creating these conditions for life, for water to be absorbed, for this phenomenon called healthy soil to happen. But we want it to be clear that we can rebuild our soil. That's what regenerative agriculture is promising, that we can take something that's broken and bring it back to a highly functioning state. Regeneration. This is what was just talked about with Dr. Ibrahim. This is not the definition of regenerative agriculture, but when we're advocating and sharing with people and trying to keep it simple, if we're talking to folks who are new to this movement, welcoming them in, we can look at this simple explanation. Agriculture that's causing regeneration. If you want to simplify it, you can look up the dictionary definition of agriculture and regeneration and put them together. And this is where, when we agree that this is an outcome, regeneration is something that happens as an outcome, we can start to allow people to engage, from young people who are new to this, to engage in this and grasp it very quickly and see why this is a different movement than what was happening before. This is a quote that is one of my favorite quotes to identify the potential and opportunity that we have across the world with regenerative agriculture. What used to take us 15 to 20 years, we're now doing in 3 to 4. Dr. Alan Williams. This is a tribute, I feel like, to the amazing sharing, collaborative efforts, and just the incredible nature of this movement of people who are out there on the front lines, working together, sharing the best practices and seeing advances because they're unleashing the potential and opportunity of nature at doing its best. They're trying to help nature do what it does best. The advances are still going to keep coming. And that's where I feel like this world is so crucial to have that type of inspiration given to the generations that are coming up into this movement to say, we need your innovations, we need your skills. And that's where each of us can bring people into this movement with that inspiration. And just, it's economic. And this is just so crucial that we look at farmer livelihood and prosperity as so crucial. When we talk about regeneration, we talk about landscape function increasing, carrying capacity increasing. That means input costs go down. When we're able, all of us, to easily lay out economic arguments of why this works, not just for economics then, but for ecosystem function, for water security, for food sovereignty in regions that have been hit the hardest, regeneration becomes that only option. And this is, I don't want to get too much into this. This is all just simple stuff. Net carbon loss versus net carbon gain is a really easy way for people who are new to this to grasp why we're saying cover crops are important, not letting bare ground, why we're talking about tilling as being an issue, why we're talking about chemicals. We're looking at regenerative agriculture on the most simple front. If you're excited about carbon, let's talk about net carbon gain or net carbon loss and how nature was designed to create a net carbon gain, and we can do it in our farming. And it obviously goes to water as well. And one thing I want to highlight here is when we're talking to policymakers around the world, giving them access to, if we change infiltration and absorption from a ½ an inch of rainfall infiltrating in an hour, like most Texas ranches, to a ½ an inch of rainfall infiltrating in 10 seconds, that can change so much for what's happening in a local watershed and flooding and drought. We can grow soil. Farmer Brown making this apparent in Kiss the Ground, the movie, but so many farmers like him. We want to start to identify these pioneering farmers who are achieving this success around the world in different cultures so that more people can directly connect to people from their regions who are making these unbelievable advances. These are the principles to remind people, and then we're just leaving with a couple quotes. But I ran out of time now, but I just wanted to share with everyone that this movement has incredible, incredible opportunities. And I wish for everyone here to take a deep breath that we can do this, because if we allow for people around the world to get as inspired as each of us are, we can change the world. And it has to do with a different way of thinking, and it has to do with regeneration. So I'm so thrilled to see the momentum behind this movement. And I want you all to know from the groundswell that's happening with Kiss the Ground, the film, we want to work with you to catapult this movement so that it is my generation, your generation, all of our generations movement, and that 20, 30 years from now, we all look back and say that this was the time. We gave access to millions of people to this idea, and they got it. And we worked together, and we included everybody. And we really looked to the indigenous wisdom, and we really looked to connecting hearts and minds around this huge potential. So thank you so much for having me. It was a great pleasure to be here with you.
Mr. Finian, MAKEPEACE, let me thank you very much for this inspirational speech, which is really inspirational. And I've taken a deep breath. You gave us extremely pertinent analysis on how not to sustain what is broken, but to rebuild in order to move towards regeneration. And I sincerely appreciate very highly the content of your remarks and the pedagogy with which you did it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Maintenant, c'est mon plaisir et mon honneur de passer la parole à Monsieur Julien de Normandie, le ministre de l'Agriculture et de l'Alimentation de la République française. Monsieur le ministre, je vous passe la parole.
Mesdames, Messieurs, les circonstances ne nous permettent pas de nous retrouver, mais je tenais à vous adresser ces quelques mots pour vous remercier tout d'abord de votre invitation, de votre présence, bien que virtuelle, à ce rendez-vous qui se tient traditionnellement en marge de la COP sur le climat. Je tiens également à saluer le bureau et le secrétariat exécutif pour avoir permis le maintien de ce rendez-vous dans ce contexte inédit, et tout particulièrement le président et le vice-président de l'initiative, Monsieur le Premier ministre Ibrahim MAYAKI et Monsieur le ministre Stéphane Le Foll. Je tiens également à réitérer le soutien plein et entier de la France à cette initiative 4 pour 1000. En effet, nous menons un combat en commun fondé sur une conviction que nous avons chevillée au corps. L'agriculture et les sols agricoles ont une importance cruciale pour la sécurité alimentaire, évidemment, mais également pour lutter contre le changement climatique. La sécurité alimentaire, tout d'abord, parce que des sols en bonne santé la terre, nos agriculteurs la chérissent. Les aliments de qualité, c'est la mission de nos agriculteurs. Et c'est là aussi un gage de permettre à chacun d'avoir les meilleures conditions de santé, parce que, pour paraphraser Hippocrate, l'alimentation est notre premier médicament. Mais en parallèle, je n'oublie pas le rôle des sols dans la lutte contre le réchauffement climatique. C'est absolument essentiel. Et peut-être que nous ne parlons pas assez des systèmes d'exploitation, par exemple l'agriculture de conservation, à laquelle je veux apporter mon plein soutien. Je crois profondément dans cette agriculture de conservation. Elle a un rôle essentiel, et vous le savez mieux que quiconque, pour capter le carbone dans le sol et ainsi agir contre le réchauffement climatique. Il faut le dire, il faut l'expliquer inlassablement. Le premier puits de carbone à l'échelle de la planète, c'est l'eau. Le deuxième puits de carbone à l'échelle de la planète, c'est le sol. Ce sol, il est essentiel et j'en suis un fervent défenseur. Et donc, n'ayons pas peur de le dire, oui, l'agriculture contribue et peut contribuer encore plus à la lutte contre les changements climatiques. Donc la France soutient totalement, pleinement cette initiative 4 pour 1000 parce qu'elle met en œuvre cette initiative de façon très concrète, cette vision du rôle de l'agriculture que nous partageons. Parce que des sols plus riches en matière organique, c'est non seulement nécessaire pour lutter contre le changement climatique, mais c'est également un outil très précieux pour accroître la sécurité alimentaire avec des systèmes agricoles au final plus résilients. C'est cela ce qu'il nous faut promouvoir. Ce sont des actions, par exemple, permettant le stockage de carbone. Et je voudrais, à ce titre, citer quelques exemples, et en particulier celui de l'introduction de légumineuses dans les rotations, ou encore l'amélioration de la production fourragère, ou enfin la préservation des prairies permanentes ou de l'agroforesterie. Sur l'introduction des légumineuses dans les rotations et l'amélioration de la production fourragère, vous savez sans doute que la France a lancé un grand plan protéines, doté de plus de 100 millions d'euros pour son amorçage. L'objectif est clair, d'augmenter de 40% la production de protéines dans les 3 prochaines années sur les sols agricoles français. Et pourquoi est-ce si important? Parce que relocaliser la production de protéines végétales en France, mais de manière générale en Europe, c'est une priorité pour notre souveraineté agroalimentaire, évidemment. Vous le savez, les légumineuses ayant une capacité à fixer l'azote de l'air et le transformer en azote directement utilisable par les plantes, cela permet au final de réduire un certain nombre d'intrants et d'améliorer la lutte contre les effets du changement climatique. Alors je me suis battu pour avoir les moyens de mettre en œuvre cette ambition protéique française, mais également cette ambition au niveau européen. C'est un combat que je mène pour, par exemple, permettre qu'à l'échelle européenne, il nous soit possible d'utiliser un certain nombre des outils de la politique agricole commune pour favoriser ce type de plantation. À l'échelle européenne, il nous faut également pousser de manière très forte la stratégie Farm to Fork, qui impose une réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre au secteur agricole et forestier. Des mesures sont déjà en place. Je pense par exemple au maintien des prairies permanentes dans le cadre du verdissement. Mais nous devons évidemment amplifier les incitations sur ces mesures parce que toutes ces transitions, elles peuvent avoir un coût et ces coûts, nous devons profiter de la nouvelle politique agricole commune pour les financer. Toutes ces actions au niveau national, au niveau européen, elles vont dans le sens de votre initiative. Et je tiens une nouvelle fois à saluer une importante étape franchie cette année pour l'initiative 4 pour 1000, avec l'adoption d'un plan stratégique cadre pour les 30 prochaines années. Cette vision du temps long est essentielle en agriculture. Et une nouvelle fois, je remercie les présidents, le bureau et le secrétariat pour ce travail remarquable qui nous projette collectivement dans l'avenir. Alors oui, l'initiative doit évidemment garder cette énergie. Je le sais, des groupes de travail et de recherche œuvrent activement pour élaborer en concertation un plan d'action qui devra être finalisé pour la COP 26 de l'année prochaine. J'en profite pour rappeler ici à quel point la recherche est essentielle pour le monde agricole. En tant qu'ingénieur agronome moi-même, je suis convaincu que les travaux, les analyses et les expérimentations sont indispensables. Et leur traduction l'est tout autant. Pour leur engagement en ce sens, je voulais également saluer les membres du comité scientifique et technique de l'initiative. Je vous remercie, mesdames et messieurs, pour l'ensemble de l'action que vous menez. Vous pouvez compter sur mon soutien total vis-à-vis de cette initiative 4 pour 1000. Je crois profondément en sa pertinence. Je crois profondément en son utilité. Et je peux vous dire que chaque jour, œuvrant à la tête de ce ministère, je m'emploie à mettre en œuvre des dispositions qui vont dans le sens de votre initiative. Je vous souhaite d'excellents et fructueux échanges et je vous dis à très bientôt.
Très bien. Je voudrais remercier le ministre de Normandie pour son appui personnel et l'appui du gouvernement français. Et
Caméra,
maintenant, comment?
Merci de mettre votre caméra.
Voilà, très bien. Alors, après avoir écouté les propos du ministre de Normandie, nous allons maintenant passer la parole à M. Hans-Joachim FUCHTEL, Parliamentary State Secretary for Agriculture and Food of the Federal Republic of Germany. Over to you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a Parliamentary State Secretary to our Federal Minister Julien, I am sending you warm greetings from Berlin. Soil is vital to our existence. In Germany, agricultural soil stores more than 2 billion tons of carbon. And globally, soil stores around 4 times as much carbon as above ground vegetation. Anyone wishing to mitigate climate change must therefore begin by protecting our soil. The good news is that the European Union has already achieved quite a bit in this area. Last year, at the Informal Agriculture Council in Helsinki, it was agreed that more support for carbon enrichment of soil should be provided. And I am delighted that we have made progress in this area during our presidency of the Council, and as we have ensured that the direct payments will be linked to environmental services. This also includes maintaining permanent grassland and wetlands. We will create strong initiatives for agriculture in this regard in order to protect soil even better. In September, the EU Commission provided further details of the climate objectives. One of these is for greenhouse gas emissions to be further reduced by 50 to 55% until 2030. The EU has also set itself the goal of being climate neutral by 2050. To achieve this, the natural carbon sinks such as soil and forest will play an even more important role. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have a common objective: to protect our soil. In order to increase the storage of carbon through sustainable humus management, the Per1000 initiative is a significant milestone in this regard. We also congratulate you on the strategy plan which you presented this year. And we are proud that we are part of this initiative and can continue to support it. Especially in the name of our Minister Julien. I can assure you of this. We are confident that the International Alliance will enable us to make good progress toward our common goal. I wish today's conference every success, and I wish you all the best and good health.
I would like to thank Parliamentary State Secretary Hans-Joachim FUCHTEL for his words and his support. And now let me invite Ms. Esperanza MORALEDA, Director General of Agricultural Productions and Markets, Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food of the Kingdom of Spain. Señora, over to you.
Buenos días a todos y muchas gracias a la Secretaría de la Iniciativa 4x1000 por organizar esta jornada un año más, dando continuidad a unos trabajos que brillan con luz propia ya en la agenda internacional. Para mi país, para España, fue un honor organizar la jornada el año pasado en la sede de nuestro Ministerio de Agricultura, Pesca y Alimentación en el marco de la COP25 que tuvo lugar en Madrid, en otras circunstancias que confiamos podamos recuperar próximamente, pero que suponen una llamada de atención para actuar de forma global. En aquella ocasión, el ministro recalcó que garantizar una alimentación segura, saludable y nutritiva para la población supone uno de los mayores desafíos tecnológicos, medioambientales y sociales a los que la humanidad se enfrenta. Somos conscientes del papel insustituible del suelo en alcanzar con éxito las metas propuestas, tanto en los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible como en materia medioambiental y climática. La iniciativa viene a hacer precisamente efectivo este rol. El suelo constituye un factor insustituible para la agricultura por su faceta dual, de soporte físico para las explotaciones y como medio de producción. Sus características de fertilidad y edáficas tienen consecuencias directas en los rendimientos de los cultivos y, por lo tanto, en el abastecimiento alimentario. Pero esta seguridad está indisolublemente ligada al papel medioambiental en el proceso de cambio climático. España se sumó a la iniciativa 4x1000 desde su fundación. Participamos además en la Secretaría Ejecutiva y desde aquí queremos animar a sumar más participantes activos para enriquecer su composición y los trabajos que desarrolla y de los que todos nos beneficiamos, estableciendo la base de desarrollo que permita a las generaciones venideras cumplir con sus propios objetivos. Los beneficios de la materia orgánica en el suelo son incontestables desde el punto de vista agronómico y la iniciativa los conjuga con los que produce la mitigación del calentamiento global. Es, por tanto, una estrategia win-win que, por un lado, mejora la estructura del suelo, aumenta la biodiversidad y reduce la erosión, y por otro permite la adaptación a los efectos del cambio climático y también lo mitiga. Crea, en definitiva, sistemas agroalimentarios resilientes que son capaces de mejorar las condiciones medioambientales de nuestro planeta. En España, la superficie agraria supone más de la mitad de la superficie del país y la materia orgánica en nuestros suelos no llega al 2%, lo que pone de manifiesto el potencial de mejora en este aspecto que debemos promover de forma activa. Por ello, el Gobierno español está firmemente comprometido con una agricultura más sostenible en lo ambiental y en lo climático, y muy particularmente en la protección del suelo. Y en esta línea verá pronto la luz una iniciativa regulatoria nacional en forma de Real Decreto que establecerá por primera vez unas normas que regulen la nutrición sostenible de los suelos agrarios. Este proyecto parte de la base de que el suelo agrícola recibe aportes de nutrientes a través de diferentes fuentes y, por lo tanto, proponemos realizar un planteamiento global que permita abordar consideraciones parciales de cada una de estas fuentes de suministro de nutrientes. El mantenimiento o el incremento del contenido en materia orgánica del suelo está integrado en el núcleo de la iniciativa, siendo uno de los principales objetivos que pretendemos alcanzar. Pero la legislación por sí sola no es suficiente, por lo que nos proponemos instrumentar otros mecanismos para su impulso definitivo. Y en este sentido, la estrategia de la Unión Europea de la granja a la mesa pone también el foco en la protección de los suelos e insta a los Estados miembros a desarrollar iniciativas que garanticen su buena salud. De igual forma, la próxima política agrícola común propone dotar de instrumentos técnicos y financieros a los agricultores, auténticos guardianes y gestores del suelo, para que a través de novedosas herramientas de apoyo, como los nuevos ecoesquemas, avancen en prácticas que mejoren la estructura y el contenido en materia orgánica de los suelos. Por ejemplo, la utilización sostenible de estiércoles y abonos orgánicos en sus labores de fertilización, insertándose también en un modelo de economía circular. Asimismo, todas estas iniciativas nacionales y europeas se apoyan en la necesaria formación y asesoramiento de los agricultores para que dispongan de los conocimientos necesarios y hagan uso de las nuevas tecnologías para la salud del suelo. El proceso debe ser necesariamente dinámico, ligado al progreso científico y cuyos resultados avala la iniciativa 4x1000, posibilitando incorporar a las políticas acciones y prácticas contrastadas en la consecución de este objetivo que nos une a todos: proponer el papel determinante de los suelos agrícolas en el bienestar de la sociedad, combatiendo el cambio climático y garantizando la seguridad alimentaria. Animo a todos, en nombre del Ministro de Agricultura, Pesca y Alimentación, a tener una participación activa durante estos días, produciendo resultados beneficiosos para todos y que encamine los necesarios trabajos futuros de esta exitosa iniciativa 4x1000. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, doña Orellana Moraleda, por sus palabras de apoyo y por el apoyo de España a nuestra iniciativa 4x1000. Now it is my pleasure to invite Mrs. Maria do Céu Antunes, Minister of Agriculture of Portugal. Over to you, madam.
Os solos são a base para a produção de alimentos, para a conservação da biodiversidade, a regularização dos ciclos hidrológicos e dos diversos serviços do ecossistema. Estas funções dependem da sua fertilidade, do bom estado físico, químico e biológico. A saúde do solo influencia a saúde das plantas, dos animais e a saúde humana, sobretudo através dos bens alimentares, mas não só. Hoje, o atual contexto pandémico reforçou a atenção que temos de ter com uma alimentação saudável, equilibrada e sustentável. Portugal, Atlântico por posição, Mediterrâneo no clima, na agricultura e na sua cultura, apresenta teores médios de carbono orgânico no solo muito reduzidos. Estamos particularmente suscetíveis a fatores com impacto na produtividade da terra, na vulnerabilidade dos solos à erosão e à desertificação, assim como na disponibilização da água para as plantas, sobretudo no verão quente e seco. Estas condicionantes, que serão fortemente agravadas com as alterações climáticas, são um desafio à nossa agricultura, seja na redução da dependência externa de cereais, seja na recuperação dos solos e na mitigação dos efeitos do aquecimento global. A aposta que Portugal tem feito na melhoria do regadio, no investimento em culturas mediterrânicas, a vinha, o olival, as hortícolas e a fruticultura, na modernização e implementação de modos de produção mais sustentáveis e de práticas culturais mais eficientes e ecológicas, tem permitido melhorar a nossa balança comercial agroalimentar. Portugal assumiu o compromisso de alcançar a neutralidade carbónica em 2050 e o combate às alterações climáticas como um dos pilares do programa de governo. Na agricultura, o desafio é enorme, mas há um rumo bem claro de implementar ações conducentes ao aumento do teor de matéria orgânica no solo. Este caminho está bem expresso na nossa agenda de inovação para a agricultura 2030, com a insígnia Terra Futura. A Terra Futura tem um grande enfoque na questão de matéria orgânica do solo e nas questões relacionadas com a segurança alimentar e nutricional, a mitigação e adaptação às alterações climáticas e a sustentabilidade dos territórios. O futuro coletivo que estamos a construir é desafiante, exigente em conhecimento e na governação e implica enfrentar grandes resistências. Mas é um imperativo não só para as gerações futuras, como para o nosso bem-estar enquanto sociedade.
Je voudrais remercier Madame la ministre de l'Agriculture du Portugal et passer maintenant la parole à Madame Aki Sabari, qui est la ministre de l'Agriculture, des Ressources hydrauliques et de la Pêche de la République de Tunisie.
Monsieur Ibrahim MAYAKI, président de l'initiative 4 pour 1000, Monsieur Le Foll, vice-président, Monsieur Paul Luhu, secrétaire exécutif, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des partenaires, les agriculteurs et membres de l'initiative 4 pour 1000, honorables invités. Nous sommes très honorés de répondre positivement à cette 4e édition de la journée de l'initiative 4 pour 1000 qui se déroule dans des conditions particulièrement difficiles dû à la pandémie Covid-19. À cet effet, je tiens à adresser mes vifs remerciements à toutes celles et ceux qui ont fait de sorte que malgré cette crise sanitaire et économique que nous vivons, notre solidarité au sein de l'initiative 4 pour 1000 continue à être une réponse effective dans le cadre d'un concept de santé unique, One Health Concept. Mesdames et messieurs, le ministère de l'Agriculture, des Ressources hydrauliques et de la Pêche s'est engagé dans un processus de réforme en s'appuyant sur des expériences pilotes et innovantes avec le soutien de nos partenaires techniques et financiers. Cette plateforme de l'initiative 4 pour 1000 constitue un espace de renforcement des capacités, de concertation et de solidarité interacteurs qui permettra de limiter la dégradation des terres et de rétablir leur fertilité et leur productivité. Cette gestion durable des terres permettra aux agriculteurs de perpétuer la vie sur leur sol, d'accélérer une transformation sociale inclusive, de réduire les conflits liés aux ressources et de faire face aux perturbations créées par les catastrophes naturelles, sanitaires et les crises sociopolitiques. Pour la Tunisie, la dimension changement climatique demeure au cœur de nos défis de développement par son caractère transversal. Des observatoires hommes-milieux sont initiés dans le but d'une meilleure compréhension de nos territoires et afin de rétablir un climat de confiance vivement souhaité entre partenaires. Une telle démarche permettra d'engager une réflexion commune sur les outils et les mécanismes en faveur d'un développement agricole durable. La Tunisie a investi dans la conservation de l'eau et du sol, et le pays est une référence mondiale pour les techniques de CES. Des travaux et des aménagements sont érigés pratiquement dans tous les étages bioclimatiques du pays. Cet effort soutenu par nos partenaires financiers n'a cependant pas permis la restauration de tous les sols dégradés. Le taux de matière organique a diminué de 2,7% dans les années 60 à environ 1,5% ces dernières années. Dans le cadre de la 3e stratégie nationale pour la conservation des eaux et du sol 2020-2030, et suite à l'aménagement et la conservation de 2 millions d'hectares de terres agricoles, le ministère a instauré des référentiels, des éléments méthodologiques et des programmes permettant de lutter contre les effets néfastes du changement climatique, d'améliorer la résistance des agriculteurs et de l'agriculture, d'institutionnaliser la gestion durable des terres agricoles et d'adapter les exploitants au changement climatique à travers l'amélioration de l'efficience d'utilisation des ressources naturelles, l'adoption des bonnes pratiques et la diversification des activités. En effet, des programmes agricoles, notamment ceux liés à la gestion des ressources naturelles, eau, sol et biodiversité, ambitionnent aujourd'hui de trouver un compromis entre la réponse aux besoins immédiats et l'investissement dans la durabilité à long terme. Mesdames et messieurs, une telle initiative nous offre l'occasion de mobiliser les connaissances et les innovations technologiques de l'ingénierie agroécologique pour proposer et tester des systèmes de culture alternatifs capables de rétablir la productivité et la fertilité des terres dégradées et de prévenir les dégradations futures. Ces systèmes disposent d'un potentiel qui pourrait impacter positivement les performances et la résilience des petites agricultures pluviales qui comptent pour près de 92% des terres agricoles cultivables. Les pratiques agroécologiques proposées et celles ancestrales en Tunisie permettent de construire des systèmes alternatifs, smart et écologiquement intensifs, capables d'atténuer les effets du changement climatique et de procurer une meilleure adaptation et une résilience accrue des petites agricultures paysannes dans les régions. Par ailleurs, nous invitons vivement les différents partenaires techniques et financiers à s'engager avec nous dans cette quête du meilleur. Enfin, je souligne l'engagement de la Tunisie en faveur de l'initiative 4 pour 1000 et à soutenir les efforts des partenaires pour la faire évoluer dans un contexte international très mitigé et affecté par la pandémie Covid-19. Nous ferons de notre mieux pour soutenir cet événement d'envergure internationale. Je réitère mes vifs remerciements à Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres et à tous les participants, et je vous remercie de votre attention.
Je remercie Mme Bari, ministre de l'Agriculture de la République tunisienne. And now I would like to invite Mr. Damien Peter O'Connor, Minister of Agriculture and Minister for Biosecurity, Food Safety and Rural Communities of New Zealand.
It's my pleasure to speak today as part of the Partners Forum of the 4 per 1000 initiative. As we're all aware, soils are vital to our lives and the life of our planet, growing our food, water drainage, storage and filtering, carbon and nutrient storage and recycling, and hosting a large part of the Earth's biodiversity. Above all, our capacity to feed 9.8 billion people in 2050 in a world increasingly impacted by climate change will depend on our ability to keep our soils thriving. In New Zealand, we rely heavily on healthy soils for our primary sector-based economy. Earlier this year, our government approved a pathway to achieve a more productive, sustainable and inclusive food and fibre sector over the next decade. We call it our Fit for a Better World roadmap. Understanding our soils and protecting their health fits with the principle of te taiao, which underpins Fit for a Better World. The Māori concept of te taiao is a deep relationship of respect and reciprocity with the natural world. The health of the climate, land, water and living systems comes first. When nature thrives, so do our families, communities and businesses. In line with this, New Zealand supports the guiding principles that our farmers and foresters are the key managers of their own farming and forestry systems. The government has formed a primary sector climate action partnership with Māori and the food and fibre sectors to address agricultural impacts on climate change and ensure our producers are resilient to climate change effects. The partnership is called He Waka Eka Noa, loosely translated, we are all in this together. He Waka Eka Noa aims to drive behaviour change by empowering farmers to increase sequestration or prevent carbon losses on their farms, resulting in lower greenhouse gas emissions and increased environmental benefits. The more we know about soils, the better we can make appropriate sustainable land use decisions. This means access to accurate, accessible soil information is critical to New Zealand. On World Soils Day last week, I announced a $6.25 million investment in mapping our most valuable soils through an extension of our National Soil Information System. This is aimed at ensuring farmers and land managers have robust information on their soils to help make decisions on their sustainable use. Through our domestic soil research programs, we are focused on understanding increasing on-farm long-term soil carbon stores, developing models to best manage these stores, and identifying factors influencing the stability of soil carbon. We have invested in the design and implementation of a national soil carbon monitoring system for agricultural land. This will significantly improve our ability to report greenhouse gas emissions. We know how challenging it can be to generate accurate and reliable information about soil carbon stock change under pasture-based livestock systems. So international collaboration is important to New Zealand to help us achieve our research goals. We are committed to working collaboratively with international partners on a range of soil programs, including through the Global Research Alliance on the agricultural greenhouse gases. Earlier this year, the New Zealand Government provided an additional funding of $34 million over 4 years to New Zealand's continued leadership and participation and investment in the Global Research Alliance. This enables New Zealand scientists to keep working with world-renowned institutes and researchers, sharing knowledge and expertise and building capacity and capability of researchers, policymakers and farmers. New Zealand is committed to healthy and carbon-rich soils to accelerate climate change mitigation and intensify the adaptation of agriculture to climate change. We have a real opportunity to continue working together to encourage our farmers to adopt practices that will continue to conserve and increase soil carbon stocks. Congratulations on 5 years of the 4 per 1,000 initiative and the publishing of your strategic plan. I wish you all the best with its implementation and the rest of the Partners Forum meeting today. We will play our part.
Mike, Mr. Chair, you forgot your mic.
Yes, I would like to thank Mr. Peter O'Connor. And now we will listen to Ms. Karen Ross, State Secretary for Agriculture of the California Department of Food and Agriculture.
Hello from the state of California. I'm so happy to be with you for a few minutes and to say thank you for the great work that you're doing at 4 per 1,000. It's so important for all of us to work together to do something that's so fundamental to being able to feed and nourish people and to address climate change, and that is soil health. You know, just last week here in California, we celebrated our annual Soil Health Week. Healthy soils have become quite the celebration for us, but of course, like many things in 2020, it wasn't in person. There weren't tours at farms or composting facilities. There weren't live in-person panel discussions with farmers. We did it all virtually. And so we chose the theme, Healthy Soils on our farms and in our homes, because we did interactive exercises for children who are all learning at home and lessons that they could do on how to compost. We had master gardeners talking about what you can do in your garden at the back of your house. It was really a successful week, and it culminated on World Healthy Soils Day. So congratulations to you for what you're doing. You know, here in California, since we've been working on healthy soils and created this great partnership around the Soil Health Global Challenge with France, we've done a lot of work across our agencies and with our own grant programs. As part of Climate Smart Agriculture, we've invested $50 million in 567 projects with individual farmers on over 58,000 acres with soil health practices. We've also funded 67 demonstration projects to really show farmers what's possible for their particular geography and the crops that they farm. And we're funding technical assistance through our universities to help more farmers know about climate smart agriculture and the critical role of healthy soils to draw down carbon, to improve our resiliency for climate and for drought because of that important water holding capacity. It was so meaningful for us that France reached out to us in 2018 and invited us to be a part of the Global Soil Health Challenge. We were able to immediately bring in our friends from the Netherlands and from the Baja state of Mexico. And now it's more important than ever that we all work, because we can do it virtually, to bring even more parties into this important mechanism. Our governor has a particular interest in healthy soils. It's a key piece of an executive order that he signed last month around biodiversity and the importance of natural working lands as part of the climate solution. With our sister agencies, we have a water resilience portfolio that has as a top priority scaling up healthy soils practices for that water holding capacity and to draw down carbon and keep it in our soils. We're working with our sister agencies on a number of compost projects to make sure that we're making it as easy and as safe as possible for farmers to do on-farm composting as part of their healthy soils practices. Our sister agencies are thinking about the state lands that we manage. Can we incorporate healthy soils practices to be even more part of the solution? I'm proud of the work that we're doing. I'm even more excited than I've ever been about how we can work across states and across continents to really scale up healthy soils practices to ensure that we can meet our climate neutrality goals and continue to feed and nourish people better. The work you're doing is so important. I'm proud to be a partner with you and look forward to our opportunities in 2021 to hopefully meet in person. But if not, we'll keep meeting virtually. Keep up the good work and thank you.
I thank Ms. Karen Ross, and I would like now to invite Mr. Francisco Guerrero, first Vice Chair of a Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development of the European Parliament. Over to you, Mr. Guerrero.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the initiative. As a citizen and a politician, I do support the Farm to 100 initiative, and I'm very happy to be here because agriculture plays a key role in food security and environmental sustainability. We all know that the way our food systems are developed are destroying the environment and endangering food security, and that we need to change the way we produce food and what we eat. We must change our diets as we eat too much animals and little plant protein. So how to promote this? The EU must provide the incentives for farmers to switch from animal production to plant protein production and also for organic farming. Europe must lead the climate revolution by shifting drastically to agroforestry models and regenerative agriculture. And the EU should also study the application of a meat tax to guide consumers into making more sustainable choices, because this is another way of achieving this so needed diet change. This tax should be used to then subsidize farmers' adaptation to climate, environmental, and animal welfare standards. Talking about concrete proposals at the European level, I must say that the final common agricultural policy, which hasn't been agreed upon because it's still in trilogues, will continue to heavily subsidize intensive animal farming and do very little to improve animal welfare or the environment. This new cap will not stop the overproduction and consumption model of meats and dairy, and will continue to destroy soil, which is a precious resource. And unfortunately, the same premise apply more or less to the farm to fork strategy. So we need to guide consumers and companies into making sustainable choices, and in the final version of the cap, if it is not structurally different, by removing subsidies to the highly pollutant sectors of meat and dairy, then we should really apply a tax on meat and dairy that would revert back to farmers to help them produce more sustainably. To finalize, I would also like to address that We must take care of our animals by not cramping them into cages and by not utilizing antibiotics irresponsibly, like all intensive farms are forced to do. We also must stop the imports of animal feeds from other continents due to the environmental degradation and CO2, as well as methane emissions. And we must end dangerous and inefficient international trade deals, such as the EU has with the Mercosur countries. I'm looking forward to this fruitful discussion, and thank you once again to organizers for this forum and these presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francisco Guerrero. And now we will listen to Mr. Chen Chi-chung, Minister of Council of Agriculture of Taiwan.
President Mayaki, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, greeting from Taiwan. I think it is a great moment to hold this important event during the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. Taiwanese people in Taiwan are very lucky because we have a normal life, because our government has controlled this virus very well. However, I think many countries in global have suffered this COVID-19 and have affected our agricultural supply chain and also for many agricultural production around the world. It's even more important for us to work together and cooperate together to hold this opportunity to create a new dimension for agricultural sector. In Taiwan, there are 13 agencies to work together to conduct 6 important measures for soil health and also for soil carbon sequestration. They are including manure reuse, green manure, and also organic farming, biochar, and also orchard grass cultivation and flatland afforestation. However, Taiwan is a very small and humid and also tropical island, which made it very difficult for us to achieve the 4 per 1,000 target. However, our government still have a very strong ambition to reach this goal. So we find biochar will be the best practice to achieve this target. We are going to improve at least 300,000 hectares for biochar in our soil. To achieve 4 per 1,000 initiative target, we have a very important policy for financial support to farmers. That is what we call a green direct payment for farmers. Once farmer has joined this project to have organic farming, we compensate farmer 30,000 NT dollars per hectare. So in last year, there are almost 134,000 hectares in Taiwan for organic farming and eco-friendly farming, which has increased a lot of percentage in Taiwan. This year, a management platform for biochar supply and application was set up to integrate the resource more efficiency in producing biochar. In addition, Taiwan is cooperating with our good neighbor and many Asian countries on improving soil organic carbon. We share our good agricultural practice and also our experience to many Asian countries to achieve the sustainable agricultural development in this region. In the future, we will adopt 5 measures. We believe agriculture can contribute significantly to a sustainable future, and with our great agricultural experience and expertise, I think Taiwan can help, and Taiwan is helping. Finally, we are looking forward to work closely with all of you and believe that our good effort will make a great differences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chen Chi-chung. And now let me invite Mr. Arwin Jones to take the floor. Over to you, Mr. Arwin Jones.
Thank you very much, and good morning. First of all, I'd like to present the apologies of my director, Mr. Giovanni Di Santi, who was scheduled to give the presentation, and unfortunately, at the last moment, he was asked to be somewhere else. So I will give the presentation as we have. I'm responsible for soil research at the European Commission Joint Research Centre here in the north of Italy, and I just want to spend a few moments talking to you about what the EU is doing in relation to soil organic carbon in its soils. As you know, one of the main policy instruments for the coming decade will be the European Green Deal. It's been announced by Ursula von der Leyen with a target of having no net emissions in the EU by 2050. And obviously what we want to try and do is to see what the role of soil is in achieving this objective. We all know that forests are a carbon sink, but agriculture still emits around 10% of the total EU greenhouse gas emission balance. And this has been relatively stable over the last decade or so. So really we have to address this by reducing non-carbon dioxide emissions from the agricultural sector, and to look at sequestering at a higher level carbon in soils. Actually, this statement has been also highlighted by the recent publication of a Horizon Europe mission on soil health and food, which identified that around 70% of all the soils in Europe are in an unhealthy stage due to current management practices, pollution and soil sealing. And so if we really want to address soil health, we really need to be able to look at the way that the soils are managed. Incidentally, we also have strong linkages between soil and other major societal challenges such as cancer, climate change, and making our cities more sustainable. So soils really are at the heart of the EU policy development in the coming years. So within the Farm to Fork, we see a range of strategies and policy instruments which have a direct impact on how we manage our land. And we've heard some of the previous speakers mention this. I think within the biodiversity strategy, the EU is committed to carrying out a revision of the soil thematic strategy, where soil organic carbon management is at the heart of getting sustainability within the EU. What we want to try and do then is to quantify the carbon levels, to promote carbon sequestration practices and activities, and then to be able to have a common monitoring system with all member states to show that we are actually achieving the goals which we are striving to meet. So the JRC specifically has two major activities that it's carrying out to support this. One is through very sophisticated biogeochemical modeling, where we can actually look at the impact of land management practices on both carbon sequestration, but also on related emissions of other nutrients that may be offsetting the gains achieved solely by carbon sequestration. So here we have a very powerful policy support tool to help us understand really the impacts of decision-making of policies and land managers. In parallel, we have a Luca soil monitoring campaign that really tries to observe and collect data from the field on the status of soil carbon in land. And all this is basically now supported from the EU Soil Observatory, which was launched only last Friday. Here we want to have an inclusive forum where we can work with member states to look at what is the situation in relation to soil organic carbon, and to help them demonstrate that the goals of the 4/1000 initiative are really being met through the development of various indicators to assess progress. And I think that's my 3 minutes up, so I'll stop there. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this morning.
No, thanks to you, Mr. Jones, for highlighting what the GRC is doing. Now we will listen to Professor Ratan Lal, Professor of Soil Science of Ohio State University.
First of all, I'd like to thank Paul Liu and his team for organizing this event. The strategy of soil carbon sequestration following the concept of 4/1000, launched at COP21 in Paris in 2015, is a triple win option. While making sustainable management of soil and agriculture a solution to adaptation and mitigation of climate change, sequestration of soil organic carbon also advances food and nutrition security, improves quality and renewability of water, and strengthens activity and species diversity of soil biota. Restoration of soil health through soil carbon sequestration is also critical to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, particularly goal number 1, end poverty, goal number 2, zero hunger, goal number 6, clean water and sanitation, goal number 13, climate action, goal number 15, life on land and land degradation neutrality, and goal number 17, justice, peace, cooperation with all. You cannot achieve Sustainable Development Goal without restoration of soil health, for which soil carbon sequestration is absolutely necessary. However, to promote farmers to advance the Sustainable Development Goals through carbon sequestration by cattle per mill program 4 per 1,000, it's absolutely necessary that the farmers are rewarded and incentivized through payments for ecosystem services. Ecosystem services for carbon sequestration, for mitigation, adaptation, and climate change, for improving quality and renewability of water, for increasing biodiversity, and at the same time making agriculture a solution to the climate change. Therefore, I strongly support the initiative of 4 per 1,000. It does not matter whether you achieve 4 per 1,000 or not. Any gain in carbon sequestration through positive improvement of soil health is a step in the right direction. Thank you for the initiative, and great luck with a successful attempt to promote it globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Lal. And now we will listen to Dr. Byron Joseph Orr, lead scientist of UNCCD, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends, and colleagues, the 4 per 1,000 initiative emphasizes that agricultural soils can play a crucial role where food security and climate change are concerned, and that healthy soils will be central to rebuilding the resilience lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is directly in line with the vision of the UNCCD, the Rio Convention that links the environment and development to sustainable land management. With more than 70% of terrestrial ecosystems already converted from their natural state, and 1 in 5 of those converted hectares no longer usable as intended, it is clear that transformational change is needed. The 4 per 1,000 initiative tells us how our soils can be regenerated, and the UNCCD is helping countries address key bottlenecks that impede the creation of a suitable enabling environment for success. Our parties have recognized the need to incentivize how we care for our soils, the pivotal role soil organic carbon plays, and how necessary it is to become more integrated and strategic in our land use planning. They have recognized that these approaches will only work if the land rights of 500 million farming families are secured. They have recognized that water scarcity is the nexus between land and drought, meaning regenerating exhausted soils and planting less thirsty crops will be key. And finally, they have recognized One Health means understanding that land use change is a primary transmission pathway for emerging infectious diseases, and that how we take care of land and our soils will be the central aspect of building back better in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. We welcome the efforts of the 4 per 1,000 initiative to make carbon central to how we remediate our soils, mitigate climate change, and bring vitality to rural communities through how we use and manage land. We wish you success in the 5th meeting of the 4 per 1,000 initiative. And even more, we applaud the work on the ground that will result from your deliberations today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orr. And now, nous allons écouter Monsieur François Mandin, qui est le président de l'APAD, l'Association pour la promotion d'une agriculture durable.
Bonjour à tous. Merci de me donner la parole au sein de ce segment de haut niveau. Je suis agriculteur en France, en agriculture de conservation des sols et président de l'APAD, une association d'agriculteurs qui promeut et soutient le développement de cette agriculture en France et à l'international au sein du GCAN. Depuis un an, le réseau des associations d'agriculteurs en ACS a fait un travail remarquable. C'est cela que je suis venu vous dire aujourd'hui. Dans un environnement politique, médiatique et sanitaire très particulier, nous avons engagé une action volontaire, concrète et partagée pour permettre la reconnaissance de l'agriculture de conservation des sols. Nous avons lancé le label Au cœur des sols. Ce label a été présenté officiellement avec beaucoup de succès au Salon de l'agriculture. Notre label est depuis déployé dans tout le territoire, grâce à l'action de nos associations locales et partenaires. Il touche en premier lieu les fermes qui sont évidemment déjà engagées en agriculture de conservation des sols, mais a pour vocation d'accompagner progressivement les fermes qui souhaitent amorcer leur transition. Le soutien de nombreuses personnalités politiques, professionnelles et scientifiques, l'INRAE notamment, ainsi que l'appui du ministère de l'Agriculture depuis le début de notre aventure, a été essentiel dans cette réussite. Le soutien officiel lors du lancement par le 4 pour 1000 a été pour nous une reconnaissance importante et je vous en remercie ici officiellement. L'enjeu aujourd'hui est de transformer l'essai et de faire de ce label un levier de financement pour nous les agriculteurs, notamment à travers la rémunération carbone. Car chaque ferme, chaque hectare labellisé, ce sont des tonnes de carbone stockées et des gaz à effet de serre compensés. Il nous manque aujourd'hui encore un vrai engagement à nos côtés pour accélérer cette transition et rémunérer les agriculteurs engagés pour les services environnementaux rendus. Alors si vous reconnaissez que l'amélioration continuelle de nos pratiques va dans la bonne direction, je vous demande très concrètement de rejoindre notre aventure collective en mobilisant votre entreprise, votre institution, votre fondation à nos côtés. Cette transition agricole souhaitée par tous ne se décrète pas d'un clic de souris, d'une poignée de main ou dans un rapport. Elle s'enclenche d'abord au cœur de nos fermes en partant de la réalité de terrain des agriculteurs. Merci de m'avoir permis de porter cette demande collective, concrète et opérationnelle au sein de ce segment de haut niveau. Bonne conférence à vous tous.
Je remercie M. Mandin et je vois M. Eduardo Mansour, Director of the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity, Environment of FAO. Mr. Mansour, it's a pleasure to have you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of FAO, it's a great pleasure to be here, to be in the 5th meeting. We all celebrate this event because the 4 pour 1000 became our gathering when we discuss soil carbon in the framework of the Climate Convention. So thank you very much for being brave and organize this event, even in the situation that we are facing with the pandemic that put us in the setback of doing things differently. And I hope that I am addressing you and you are all healthy and fine. It was a difficult year, still is, but it was not a year that we stopped working. And the challenge that we have faced made us accelerate the points that I think are very important for the partnership, for the 4 pour 1000. I would like to highlight 3 of them that I think are very relevant for us in the 3 minutes that I have to speak with you. The first thing that I think is very important for us this year, the FAO Global Soil Partnership and its Intergovernmental Technical Panel on Soils get approved and publish the first ever MRV protocol for for soil organic carbon. You know how important it is to have a reliable measurement, reporting, verification, and monitoring of soil carbon. This is going to be essential for us. And this publication, I will put the link on the chat for everybody to access. Most of you already know it. It's essential for us to guarantee that we have a good framework and standard methodologies for the reliability. This is essential. And I think we did a great step ahead on monitoring the carbon stocks and the greenhouse gas emissions from soils. We learned from the experience from the forest, from the carbon above ground, and now we have our protocol for carbon below ground. The second thing I would like to bring to your attention was the launching this year at the World Day to Combat Desertification and Drought, together with the Executive Secretary of the UNCCD and the CEO of the Global Environmental Facility, of a FAO initiative on recarbonization of soils. We are all talking about decarbonizing the economy, so we will recarbonize the soils to help decarbonize the economy. And it's huge, the potential. One of the things that the GSP and FAO are engaged is work with our member countries to prepare a global soil carbon sequestration potential map. And this is essential for us to know where we are going to have the highest impact. And I thank many of the scientists here present, including, of course, our dear Dr. Ratan Lal, for this collaboration on this. The third point, I will also put the link of the REC Soil initiative, the recarbonization of soil, that we are engaged in. We are piloting it in Costa Rica, a country that has been done so much on payment for ecosystem services for carbon above ground, and they are calling it the PES 2.0 because it refers to our soil organic carbon. The third thing was the celebration last week of the World Soil Day on the 5th of December, the launching of this outstanding report on the state of knowledge on soil biodiversity. It links directly with the work that we are doing. It is a tremendous work, 600 pages, 300 scientists involved. It's a state of knowledge because we know so little about the biodiversity in the soil, and it has so much to do with the soil organic carbon that we are dealing here. So as you see, Mr. Chairman and colleagues and your excellencies, we should not stop. The pandemic should not put us on hold. On the contrary, climate change continues to be our biggest challenge in the long run, and soil has a tremendous role to play, as well as the CAT-PUMIL. So FAO is very pleased with the partnership. We are very pleased to have CAT-PUMIL as a member of the GSP, and we will be willing to share with you our knowledge and experience and learn from the forum and the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mansour. The pleasure is ours. Thank you very much. Maintenant, je vais passer la parole à Madame Valérie Verdier, CEO de l'Institut de recherche pour le développement. Nous allons l'écouter.
Monsieur le Président, cher Ibrahim, Monsieur le ministre de l'Agriculture et de l'Alimentation de la République française, Monsieur le secrétaire d'État parlementaire pour l'agriculture et l'alimentation de la République fédérale d'Allemagne, Messieurs et Mesdames les ministres, chers collègues. L'IRD était présent dès 2015 lors du lancement de l'initiative 4 pour 1000 autour des sols pour la sécurité alimentaire et le climat et renouvelle son entier soutien à cette initiative. Nous sommes dans un monde sous pression où les enjeux liés au changement climatique, à la perte de la biodiversité, à la dégradation des terres et aussi la pandémie Covid-19 qui nous affecte tous. Nous sommes dans un monde sous pression où la santé des sols est aussi notre santé et notre bien-être à tous. En tant qu'institut de recherche pour le développement, l'IRD promeut une recherche interdisciplinaire qui est vraiment guidée par l'excellence scientifique pour éclairer des solutions ancrées dans les territoires auprès des usagers. Une recherche co-construite avec l'ensemble des acteurs. Et vous comprendrez, la science de la durabilité, c'est vraiment notre fil rouge. notre pilier d'action et qui doit guider notre agenda et notre stratégie. L'initiative 4 pour 1000, parce qu'elle regroupe des établissements de recherche et d'enseignement supérieur, des gouvernements et autorités locales, des organisations internationales, régionales, des banques de développement, des organisations paysannes, mais aussi des organisations de la société civile et sur tous les continents, elle offre, cette initiative, un cadre extrêmement favorable à cette co-construction. Après ces premières années de déploiement de l'initiative et un nombre croissant de membres, ce dont je me félicite, le plan stratégique de l'initiative est décliné en 6 grands objectifs et cela était une étape absolument nécessaire. L'IRD apporte son soutien en octroyant en 2021 un budget spécifique pour consolider l'active participation des acteurs du Sud. Il est en effet essentiel pour l'IRD que ces acteurs du Sud soient soutenus dans le cadre de leur implication et selon leurs priorités dans cette initiative. Et je vous encourage aussi à trouver d'autres moyens et l'IRD sera aux côtés de l'initiative 4 pour 1000 pour cela. Donc nous avons fait un bout de chemin ensemble, il reste beaucoup à faire. L'IRD, dans son mandat, continuera son implication et l'IRD appelle de tous ses voeux le déploiement d'actions sur les terrains au bénéfice des plus vulnérables parce que la santé des sols, c'est aussi un moyen de lutte contre la pauvreté. Je vous souhaite donc de fructueux échanges au cours de cette journée et vous dis à bientôt.
Je remercie Madame Verdier. Et nous allons maintenant écouter Monsieur Jean-François Soussana, vice-président international de l'Institut national de recherche pour l'agriculture, l'alimentation et l'environnement. Monsieur Soussana, vous avez la parole.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, chers collègues. Je vais m'exprimer en anglais. INRAE is the French National Research Institute for Food, Agriculture and Environment. We are a world leader on research concerning several of the SDGs, including zero hunger, climate action, and life on Earth. INRAE results from the merger in January of this year of INRA and IRSTEA. And as many of you may know, our institute has contributed to frame the scientific basis of the 4/1000 initiative since its start at COP21 in 2015. Since then, we have been working closely with the initiative, both within the Scientific and Technical Committee and through national, European and international research programs. At the national scale, INRAE operates the monitoring of French soils and of their soil carbon stocks, while developing deep basic research on soil organic matter, carbon cycling, and soil biodiversity. We have published last year a major study showing the technical and economic potential of soil carbon sequestration in the French agriculture sector. This study has triggered a large interest by farmers and agri-food industries, and INRAE has engaged further with them in 2 complementary ways: developing options to protect soils, to have cover crops, restore degraded grasslands, and implement soil carbon sequestration. Also developing monitoring, reporting, and verification methodologies for soil carbon stock change that will allow farmers to have projects certified by the French National Low Carbon Label. And moreover, we are committed to support transformation cases where farmers and industries engage together into agroecological transitions for soil carbon sequestration. We are glad to see now the first payments for farmers in France, and I think this is really good news. With CIRAD and IRD, we also have launched a study on soil carbon in the overseas territories of France, which will bring many options for also engaging farmers into those transitions. So at the European and international scale, INRAE coordinates preparation of the International Research Consortium on soil carbon, and we have defined a strategic research agenda with support of the European Commission with 4 pillars that are frontiers research through international research schools that will be co-organized with the European Joint Programme on Soils that we also coordinate. And we work with many researchers to towards an international standard for the monitoring, reporting, verification of soil carbon stock change that will involve not only the soil data, but also remote sensing and modeling. Then we would like to support with that international agenda, international consortium, innovation for soil carbon, including, for instance, deep-rooted crops, organic fertilizers, digital agriculture. And we would like to further create an enabling environment through online interactive platforms, connecting scientific experts worldwide and providing guidance for users. So we look forward to the launch of this international consortium early next year. And we hope that it will in this way support the 4/1000 initiative, but also other initiatives like Rec Soil mentioned by the FAO and the Global Soil Partnership, and also contribute to the overall goals of the SDGs and of the International Rio Conventions. This is also timely in Europe, as we have heard about the Green Deal, which has an ambitious strategy for agriculture, with the possibility in the next CAP of direct payments for farmers developing ecosystem services such as soil carbon sequestration. With support of the climate knowledge and innovation community, we have developed a first network of European soil carbon farming projects, and we prepare new projects for the European Green Deal call to support the transition of farms towards carbon neutrality. And we are glad to contribute also to the mission on soil health and food that has an ambitious target to restore the soil health for 75% of European soils. So in this context, we are really glad to see that the 4/1000 initiative has now a strategic plan, which will enable to make progress on a large scale and to engage into implementation that will support soil health, climate action, and food security. So let me say that with my president and CEO, Philippe Mauguin, we will be glad to further contribute to these developments, and we wish the initiative all the success possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Susanna. Now we will listen to Mr. Bruno Oberle, Director General of IUCN. Over to you, Mr. Oberle.
No, Mr. Mayaki, we have a small problem. Mr. Oberle cannot attend today, so we will shift to the next speaker, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. So we will now go to Mr. Santiago Gauland, Executive Vice President, Latin America and Global Innovation, the Nature Conservancy. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm honored to join this conversation with all of you. So let me give you a quick snapshot into Latin America, where TNC has been working in more than 15 countries for many decades. And as you may know, Latin America is the most biodiverse region on the planet. It is home to 40% of all species. The region also holds 1/3 of the world's freshwater resources. And these natural assets have paved the way for Latin America to become a global breadbasket. But the convert and deplete approach to food production has taken a heavy toll on the environment. Agriculture and ranching consume 70% of freshwater resources and account for 70% of the region's habitat conversion. Deforestation in Latin America is also 3 times the global rate, making the agriculture sector the leading contributor to Latin America's greenhouse gas emissions. The resulting biodiversity loss and soil degradation have had severe impact on the very assets upon which agricultural productivity depends. Our science at the Nature Conservancy shows that regenerative food systems are a powerful solution that create a positive triple impact on climate, biodiversity, and sustainable development by supporting the relationship between natural ecosystems such as water, soil health, and biodiversity, and agricultural yields. We have many success cases in Mexico, Central America, Argentina, Colombia, and Brazil, where thousands of small-scale producers are working with TNC to adopt regenerative agricultural practices. We are showing that agriculture actually prospers when managed hand in hand with preserving the delicate ecological balance essential to our planet's future. Let me give you just a concrete example from Colombia, which is the world's second most biodiverse country in the planet. TNC and partners just concluded a 10-year project that helped more than 4,000 family farmers adopt regenerative agriculture that combines trees with pastures in a beneficial combination for farmers and the environment. The obtained annual increase in income by up to $150 per hectare, boosted milk production by an average of 36%, and monitoring studies confirmed biodiversity increases, reduced pollution of water sources, and also a quite impressive climate impact that helps sequester 1.6 million tons of carbon. So this 4 per 1,000 initiative, I feel, is a great demonstration of readiness at a science, institutional, financial, and technological levels. But what do we need to do differently in order to move past the current mindset of incremental improvement towards exponential delivery of this agenda? Let me give you 5 quick points to conclude. This agenda needs to be embraced by finance ministers, working in partnership with environmental, agriculture, production, and other government cabinets to include regenerative agriculture in national budgets. This will require aligning subsidies and incentives to accelerate market shifts towards restoration and regeneration of soils. In the Latin America region, we need industry leaders to become advocates of this policy change and transform market dynamics along the value chains for zero deforestation and regenerative practices. These are times that require bold leadership. This is no longer an agenda of just mitigation or sustainable management. It's an agenda of restoration and regeneration. Cross-sector collaboration to share science, innovation, best practices, knowledge management, and capacity building to accelerate implementation is also imperative. We need to avoid the siloed and competitive dynamics of the sustainability sector and collaborate to genuinely shift entire systems at a national and landscape level. And finally, closing the finance gap for a green post-COVID recovery will require finance innovation and channeling resources towards scaling successful local examples of regenerative agriculture, building of local knowledge and culture, particularly from indigenous wisdom across the region. It's really encouraging to see the level of convergence and momentum of this agenda, orchestrating our efforts through efficient collaboration and channeling resources to accelerate local execution will be key. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gowland, for your remarks, which are very interesting. And I like to reference to how to pressure the finance ministers. But as we know, finance ministers are bosses, so maybe we should aim also high. Thank you very much. Now it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Tony Simons, a dear friend of mine, Director General of ICRAF, World Agroforestry Center. Tony, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Miyake. If the Secretariat would allow me to share my screen.
Yes, I think so.
Is that coming across?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
In presentation mode or?
No, we see just your screen. You can shift to presentation mode.
Yes, it's fine now. It's fine now.
Great, thanks very much. So thanks to the Cutler Mill Secretariat for giving us the opportunity to share our work with you today. And this slide aptly shows what happens when we get it wrong. And which begs the question, so what do we need to do to get it right? Well, to get it right, we need 3 precursors of the ability to measure soil health, of the need to understand soil health, and to better manage soil health to reap the dividends of healthy soils, climatic health, ecosystem health, human health, financial health, and development cooperation. And if we really want to reap those soil health dividends, we need 4 key elements, and those are field work, laboratory work, remote sensing, and analytical pieces. Take any one of those 4 away and success is not likely. So coming to the lab work, many of you are aware of the pioneering work that ICRAF has been doing over the last couple of decades with spectral studies, such as the mid-infrared analyses. And you can see the tremendous diversity there from a range of soil samples. And the ability not just to look at elemental analyses, but soil organic carbon, total nitrogen, and other soil properties, fundamental to understanding soil health. With reference to geospatial analyses, we've set up a dynamic and collaborative enterprise at ICRAF to support decision-making and learning at multiple levels of projects, of investors, of national and subnational governments. So let us share with you one practical example of this, which comes from Sri Lanka, and it involves land degradation of a major watershed and siltation of the Mahaweli Dam. Now, triggered by unsustainable practices and climate change, this was leading to loss of livelihoods and environmental degradation. So with a range of analyses such as this 500-meter resolution soil organic carbon map for the entire country, this shows the changes over a 10-year time frame and hotspots where we needed land health interventions most readily. And in providing these analyses and evidence and working with the Sri Lankan government and IUCN, we were able to help secure a $49 million project with a Green Climate Fund to address soil health and related problems of climate, ecosystem health, and healthy livelihoods for both urban and rural livelihoods. And these are just some examples of the work that we're doing. Many of you are aware of others, Dr. Miyake, our collaborative work on the African Orphan Crops Consortium, and how we link up that nutritional health with human health, with soil health, and overall ecosystem health in Africa, but now expanding to Asia as well. And to the younger members of our audience who like sound bites or something that you can Twitter, remember that soil health is national wealth. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Tony. And we'll remember the quote here. Thank you very much. Now, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Alain Vidal, the Director of Science and Partnerships of WBCSD. Over to you, Mr. Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. President, and welcome to all. Good morning, good afternoon, Excellencies and colleagues and dear friends. It's my pleasure to reconnect with this initiative, which I had the pleasure to be among the founding organizations when I was with CGIAR, and now with my capacity of Science Director of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, bearing here the voice of the business and trying to give you a few examples on how the business is strongly caring for and increasingly caring for soils and regeneration. So what I'd like to show you is, well, a few examples of what business is undertaking, and it has been, I would say, undertaking quite recently on this topic. Last year, WBCSD published a guide for CEOs to food system transformation, which, among many recommendations, has paved the way to a regenerative food system, not only the production, but also the food we eat and how we consume. This has translated into major outcomes so far. One is a publication that we released 2 years ago at COP24 on the business case for investing in soil health. Some of you may still remember it, and also to start hosting and be at the early stages and still hosting the One Planet Business for Biodiversity Coalition, OP2B, which mobilizes 25 companies along the agricultural value chain from the production to the retailing levels, driving transformational systemic change and catalyzing action to protect and restore biodiversity. The OP2B actions are focused on 3 pillars on which members disclose commitments. One is on regenerative agriculture, and this is the one I will mention today because this one has, I would say, as a cross-cutting dimension, carbon storage in soils, and also worth mentioning the 2 other pillars, one on diversifying the product portfolio, offering us more diverse food, and the 3rd pillar on conserving and restoring high-value ecosystems. And I'd like to share with you commitments recently made by 6 OP2B members to scale up regenerative agriculture. One by Danone on sourcing 100% of ingredients produced in France from regenerative agriculture. Unilever that has launched a new regenerative agriculture code for all its suppliers. The Livelihood Fund, which is a social business investment fund that many of you know, which is a member of the 4 that has investing 84 million euros towards regenerative agriculture. Walmart, the biggest retail company across the world, which is adopting regenerative agricultural practices on land and in oceans. Kering, a leading government company that is now committed to regenerate 1 million hectares of farms and rangeland by 2025. And last but not least, Natura, the large cosmetic Brazilian company that has now a very important investment program to further develop regenerative solutions. So with those examples, I wanted to share with you the efforts of the business that we represent here as a member of WBCSD, and also happy to inform that OP2B has also recently become a member of 4 Thank you for your attention. And I need to stop.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Fidel. Et maintenant, je voudrais passer la parole à Monsieur Sébastien Treyer, Executive Director of IDRI, France. Over to you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Premier ministre. C'est un grand honneur pour l'IDRI, un think tank qui travaille sur les négociations internationales sur le climat et la biodiversité, de pouvoir participer à ce forum. Je voudrais souligner essentiellement 2 grandes opportunités politiques très importantes de ces négociations internationales cette année, dans lesquelles le 4 a un atout majeur, et en particulier pour moi, c'est la qualité de son référentiel d'évaluation qui lui est très spécifique et qui n'est pas si courant dans d'autres initiatives dans le secteur des terres et dans le secteur agroalimentaire. La première opportunité clé pour moi, c'est la dynamique politique de course vers la neutralité carbone, que la présidence britannique de la COP26 appelle « Race to Zero ». C'est exactement ce qu'on attendait de l'accord de Paris sur le climat, c'est donc une très bonne nouvelle. Mais il faut bien reconnaître que beaucoup des territoires, des pays et des secteurs qui s'engagent à la neutralité carbone anticipent à tort ou à raison qu'ils n'atteindront pas 0 émission et qui vont rechercher donc des capacités très importantes de compensation, d'offsetting de leurs émissions, et notamment dans le secteur des terres. Le secteur des terres joue un rôle critique. Le GIEC et l'IPBES et la science des sols et le 4 y a en particulier contribué, ont montré la fragilité des puits de carbone dans les sols, même s'ils ont un gros potentiel. Et on ne peut pas s'appuyer sur les sols pour compenser à grande échelle les efforts qui ne seraient pas faits dans d'autres secteurs. La préservation du carbone organique des sols est une dimension clé, comme beaucoup d'autres intervenants l'ont dit, mais une dimension seulement d'un changement de modèle et de paradigme dans le système alimentaire. C'est l'ensemble des objectifs de développement durable, des ODD, qui doivent être notre objectif. Et évidemment, la capacité à prendre la force d'entraînement des négociations sur le climat est importante. mais on doit aussi viser la biodiversité, l'adaptation, la sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle, la réduction de la pauvreté et des inégalités. Et je pourrais aussi mentionner dans la négociation climatique la question de l'intégrité environnementale sur l'article 6, à laquelle je pense que le système de monitoring et verification mentionné par le Global Soil Partnership de la FAO est un point d'attention extrêmement important. Ce que je veux juste mentionner pour finir sur cette première opportunité, on a là beaucoup de projets qui vont avoir besoin d'un cadre d'évaluation clair, exigeant et exhaustif sur comment est-ce qu'on peut être aligné en matière de climat, mais aussi aligné en matière d'agenda 2030, d'objectifs de développement durable, et comment est-ce qu'on peut vérifier les trade-offs et les synergies entre les ODD. Le référentiel d'évaluation du 4 pour 1000 fait ça, c'est un atout clé de l'initiative, ça lui est spécifique, c'est une valeur ajoutée fondamentale de cette initiative qui mérite d'être mieux connue, d'être rendue plus visible et diffusée auprès des acteurs financiers. Justement, c'est auprès des financiers que je voudrais souligner la deuxième opportunité politique clé, avec l'agenda international des deux COP15, celle de la biodiversité et de la désertification, et la COP26, on va avoir besoin d'énormément de capacités à désigner quels sont les montants qu'on va pouvoir débloquer pour financer la biodiversité, pour financer la lutte contre la dégradation des terres, pour financer les solutions fondées sur la nature. Je pourrais citer les termes du sommet des Nations Unies sur le système alimentaire, de projets agricoles qui soient positifs pour la nature et pour le climat, ou bien aussi, suite à la crise, pour les pays qui n'ont pas de capacité à financer par des subventions publiques, la question des échanges de dettes, des debt swaps pour la nature et pour le climat. La limite de la plupart de ces financements n'est pas tant l'offre de financement et les fonds disponibles que l'existence d'un pipe de projets, excusez mon franglish, mon mélange de français et d'anglais, d'un flux de projets bancables et à l'échelle. Et il me semble que le 4 pour 1000 a des atouts pour participer à l'évaluation des performances socio-économiques et environnementales qui donneront confiance aux financeurs sur cet ensemble de projets. Et en particulier, je voudrais juste souligner deux points clés sur lesquels le 4 pour 1000 a travaillé grâce à son programme scientifique. L'initiative 4 pour 1000 a énormément d'efforts de réflexivité scientifique qui lui a permis de travailler sur des sujets clés comme le risque de non-permanence et la question de la pérennité à long terme du stockage du carbone dans les sols agricoles, en soulignant le rôle des dynamiques collectives dans les paysages et dans les territoires et dans les filières, et pas seulement à travers la rémunération individuelle d'un agriculteur. Ou autre point sur lequel le 4 pour 1000 a des choses à dire, c'est la question du foncier et des régimes d'accès à la terre où l'agriculteur n'est pas forcément propriétaire du sol dont il a l'usage. Néanmoins, comment lui donner les incitations pour qu'il investisse pour augmenter la valeur écologique de son capital sol. On a là des questions sur lesquelles le 4 pour 1000 a des choses à dire qu'on n'entend pas ailleurs. Et donc, je voulais souligner ça. C'est une initiative à très fort niveau de réflexivité. Et nous avons besoin de cette initiative dans ces négociations internationales pour être à la fois dans l'intégrité environnementale et dans la capacité à convaincre les financiers. Merci pour votre invitation à prendre la parole.
Merci, M. Treillet, pour cette condensation d'idées qui seront très certainement prises en compte au niveau de ce que nous faisons. Merci. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Pedro Antonio Maldonado Ríos, presidente del Consejo de Administración de ANAC, la Asociación Nacional de Agricultura y Conservación de México.
Hola, muy buenos días a todos. Gracias por la invitación a la iniciativa 4 por 1000. Quisiera ver si puedo compartir mi pantalla con ustedes.
Yo creo que puede.
Estoy intentando,
You have to use the green button at the back of your screen.
Hay un botón verde y usted tiene que...
Yep.
Okay. Ahí está, perfecto.
Ok, gracias por la invitación. Quiero compartir con ustedes que la agricultura en México tiene una fuerte tradición en el que se utiliza mucho excesivo movimiento del suelo, un alto uso de fertilizantes sintéticos y el aprovechamiento total de la biomasa que resulta de las cosechas. Esto no favorece la recuperación de la fertilidad natural del suelo ni conservar la biota. El 90% de las explotaciones agrícolas hacen monocultivos, incluso en zonas ancestrales donde se supone hay mayor respeto por la biodiversidad. Esto es grave, porque incluso en México no hay estudios fehacientes sobre la agitación del suelo. Desde el 2003 y el 2006 son los últimos estudios que se han hecho. Pero por desgracia estos estudios nos muestran la gravedad de erosión de un 21.3% del territorio agrícola y una degradación del 23.9%, con pérdidas que van desde 50 hasta 200 toneladas de suelo por hectárea al año. En México estamos adoptando actitudes resilientes. No todo está mal. Desde el sector oficial se ha fomentado sistemas de agricultura de conservación, capacitando y mostrando técnicas de conservación de suelos como lo es el fideicomiso instituido con relación a la agricultura que pertenece al Banco de México desde hace más de 30 años. También hay una iniciativa muy importante entre el gobierno federal y el Centro Internacional de Mejoramiento de Maíz y Trigo, con un programa que se llama Modernización Sustentable de la Agricultura Tradicional, el cual fomenta investigación y desarrollo en agricultura de conservación. Perdón, creo que me pasé, ¿verdad? Bueno. Desde 1982, nosotros estamos haciendo muchos trabajos. No sé si está corriendo la presentación. Desde 1982 hemos evolucionado con la cero labranza, mínimo labranza, labranza de conservación y agricultura de conservación, con muchos agricultores héroes para nosotros, ¿sí? Nosotros hemos estado fomentando también lo que es sistemas sustentables de producción como la agricultura de conservación, la siembra de un sistema que se llama milpa intercalada con árboles frutales en curvas de nivel y con agricultores de conservación, agricultura de conservación. También hemos fomentado mucho la formulación artesanal de abonos orgánicos, naturales, mineralizados y hemos manejado estrategias de control integrado de plagas y enfermedades. Hemos establecido franjas que favorecen la promoción de espacios para alimentación, refugio y reproducción de polinizadores e insectos benéficos. También fomentamos el sistema MILPA y la biodiversidad. Como Asociación Nacional de Agricultura de Conservación, hemos fortalecido a agricultores indígenas. Un ejemplo que puedo citar es en la producción de sorgo. Hemos llegado a rendimientos con estos sistemas de hasta 10 toneladas por hectárea con costos de producción de 650 euros y un valor de producción de 1.750 euros. Para el caso del maíz, que es el cultivo que más se produce en México, hemos logrado llegar con maíces nativos hasta 7 toneladas por hectárea y con costos de producción de 354 euros con un valor de producción de 1.604 euros. Estos beneficios económicos son superiores a los alcanzados por los agricultores tradicionales, que representan un 95%. Hay mucho por hacer, pero el potencial es grande con grandes beneficios económicos, ambientales y sociales. A pesar de que la política actual tiene la tendencia sustentable y ambiental, solo organizaciones como la Fundación Produce Puebla y el Grupo Singenta a través del Plan para la Alimentación Sostenible, desde 2013 nos han apoyado en la mayoría de nuestras acciones. Esto muestra que es posible coexistir haciendo agricultura sustentable desde diferentes frentes. En conclusión, estamos convencidos que las acciones, por muy buenas y grandes o pocos presupuestos que se tengan, no tienen eficacia de manera aislada. Es más, se desgastan los esfuerzos al operar de esta forma. Por eso es importante conjuntar y alinear las acciones y fortalecerlos para juntos ser más fuertes y eficaces. Gracias a la iniciativa 4 por 1000 por tomar en cuenta nuestra voz.
Thank you. I would like to thank Mr. Pedro Antonio Maldonado Rios. Thank you for your presentation, and invite Mr. André Le, International Director, Regeneration International from Australia. Over to you, Mr. Le.
Well, thank you. Can I get my video? I'm not allowed to put my video on at the moment.
Yes,
somebody
you can share your screen, Andre.
Yeah, I haven't got any PowerPoint. I'm just going to talk, but I just Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And what I'd really like to say is what I've been hearing today is music to my ears. It is so good to hear this. I'm one of the original signatories of the 4 per 1000, the 4 for 1000 in Paris, when I was the president of IFOAM Organics International. And at that time, I believed it was it's probably one of the most important things to come out of Paris. And the truth is, I believe now it is amongst the most important things, because this year in Manilao in Hawaii, we reached a new record of 417 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And the last time we didn't even have 400 parts per million. The last time we can go back when we had 380 parts per million was between 3 and 3.5 million years ago. And the research done, and there's some very good peer-reviewed papers in the journal Nature, shows that the temperatures were between 5 to 16 degrees warmer, and sea levels were between 20 to 30 meters higher than they are now. And where this is really important, because even if the world transitioned to 100% renewable energy tomorrow, this will not stop the temperature and sea level rises. The world will continue to heat up because it'll take more than 100 years for the CO2 levels to drop naturally. The United Nations Paris Agreement proposes to have net CO2 neutrality by 2050. And all the evidence shows this will be too late to stop the enormous damage of catastrophic climate change. At the current rate of emissions, we will be close to 500 parts per million in the atmosphere before we reach net neutrality. The fact is, we are in a serious climate emergency now. We have to speed up the transitions to renewable energy. We have to stop the clearing of all forests. And we also have to make a great effort to draw the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and try and get it back to the 280 parts per million that we had in the pre-industrial era. And as we know, soils are the greatest sink for carbon after the oceans. We already have too much carbon in the oceans, too much carbon dioxide. We're acidifying it. We're causing massive problems. Where I live in Northern Australia, the acidity is affecting the Great Barrier Reef, but it's affecting ecosystems throughout our oceans. We have too much in the atmosphere, but the soils hold around 2,700 gigatons of carbon dioxide, and that's almost 3 times the amount of what we have in the atmosphere and all the biomass on the planet. It's the logical place for us to put the carbon. What we know now, and we've heard a lot today, that we have a lot of agricultural systems that are losing soil carbon that's going up into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. In fact, it's estimated we have lost between 50 to 70% of the original soil carbon pool. And this is being further exacerbated by degradation and desertification. However, I think the other thing that's coming out of today is the good news, and it's the good news we need to work on. We know that we have agricultural systems that recycle organic matter, use crop rotations that can increase the levels of soil organic carbon. And this can be achieved through quite a number of techniques, such as longer rotations, ground covers, cover crops, green manures, legumes, compost, organic mulches, biochar, perennial systems, agroforest, agroecology, biodiversity, and a whole range of livestock systems on pastures and rangelands that use sustainable grazing systems such as holistic grazing. And all of these systems now are starting to come under the heading of regenerative agriculture because they can regenerate soil organic carbon. And this is really important because we have to shift agricultural systems, so that they mitigate greenhouse gases to stop catastrophic climate change. And agriculture has to move from being a major problem, one of the major causes of greenhouse gases, and we can change it now to being a major solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lowe. Thank you very much. Maintenant, je voudrais que nous écoutions M. Salah Lamouchi, le président de l'APAD de Tunisie.
Donc l'APAD est une association qui a été créée en décembre 2006 par un groupe de 9 agriculteurs qui étaient conscients des problèmes qu'ils avaient dans leur sol. Donc en octobre, il y avait les pluies diluviennes emportaient toute la terre arable qui se retrouvait dans les barrages, à peu près. Donc en 2014, on a senti qu'il y avait un fléchissement. Les gens, même même les adhérents avaient un petit peu abandonné plus ou moins le semi-direct. Donc on a réfléchi, on s'est dit, bon, il fallait penser plus au sol, adopter une philosophie plutôt qu'une technique. Et à ce moment-là, on a mis en branle, si vous voulez, l'agriculture de conservation. Donc l'agriculture de conservation qui repose sur les 3 piliers que tout le monde connaît en principe. Donc c'était la perturbation minimale du sol, rotation et couverture de sol. Donc on a fonctionné et en 2015 on a été invité à Paris pour la COP21 où j'ai participé. J'ai un petit peu parlé du semi-direct, enfin de l'agriculture de conservation en Tunisie. On a fait connaissance avec beaucoup de gens et de ce fait on a été aussi invité à la COP22 qui se trouve à Marrakech. Et là aussi, on a un petit peu parlé de l'agriculture de conservation, on s'est fait un petit peu plus connaître, on a commencé à voir des agriculteurs sur place. Pendant cette COP-là, on a fait la connaissance des présidents de l'Association européenne de l'agriculture de conservation et africaine. Et on a été invité en Afrique du Sud. Et là, on continue. Nous sommes sur 3 projets. Nous avons un projet sur le colza pour inciter les gens à introduire le colza dans leur rotation. Et puis aussi on a un autre projet, on invite les agriculteurs et on fait des essais et on essaye de voir comment ils évoluent avec l'évolution des essais pour voir si la mentalité va changer. Et l'autre projet, c'est le projet CAMA, donc c'est un projet d'agriculture de conservation de la zone Méditerranée. Et là, on fait des essais pour faire pour voir la différence entre donc labour, TCS et semi-direct. Tout ça pour essayer toujours de développer l'agriculture de conservation en Tunisie.
L'APAD est une association d'agriculteurs qui a assez tôt, relativement pour la Tunisie, pris en charge les problèmes de durabilité des systèmes de production céréaliers et particulièrement en zone semi-aride par des techniques de travail du sol simplifiées, en introduisant des assolements céréaliers qui permettent un couvert végétal et qui permettent de préserver les ressources en eau et en sol dans ces systèmes de production qui deviennent de plus en plus fragiles par les réchauffements climatiques. Nous avons également pu intégrer depuis 2006 des systèmes de production en zone semi-aride basés sur des rotations céréales, élevage ovin ou céréales colza, céréales légumineuses ou céréales fourrage. Ce qui a permis d'améliorer notre rendement et d'assurer la durabilité des systèmes céréaliers qui restent quand même assez fragiles dans les régions semi-arides tunisiennes.
Je remercie M. Lamouchi et maintenant nous allons écouter M. Salvatore Basile, président de l'International Network of Ecoregions, Italy.
Hello everybody, it's an honor for me to introduce you INER, the International Network of Ecoregions, ALGOA, the Asian Local Governments for Organic Agriculture, and GAOD, the Global Alliance for the Organic Districts, established with other organizations to co-create a global network able to support the local development of the organic districts in different territorial contexts for the transformation of global food and farming systems. A monitoring tool has been developed and tested for the analysis of the organic district's structure and performances with specific parameters for the quality of the soil evaluation. We want to support the implementation of 4/1000 strategic plan and promote 4/1000 in our network. First of all, with the basis in our work group, the number 3, on regenerative organic farming. To all actors involved in organic districts, including from farm to fork, policymakers, governments, researchers, and NGO. Include 4/1000 parameters with healthy soils and organic carbon content in the development of a branding scheme for products from organic districts. Of course, we have interest to join relevant task forces and in particular with the Task Force 1, which covers twin regions. As you can see on the GAOD map, more and more rural communities of organic districts have organized themselves to respond in a concrete and effective way to the emergencies of the planet in general and soil degradation in particular. Now I am pleased to show you a video by Regeneration International and how they are working with the local government in Mexico, who is member of GAOD, to achieve the 4/1000 initiatives goal for the 2050 by increasing carbon in soils. Thanks for your attention, and let's work together for the health of the soils and of our planet, of course.
Mi nombre es Francisco Pérez García, soy director de Medio Ambiente y Sustentabilidad del municipio de San Miguel de Allende, ubicado en el centro del país, en el Bajío mexicano. Cuenta con un clima semidesértico. He hecho algunos ejercicios con bioorgánica y regeneración internacional para empezar a entrenar, capacitar a las comunidades. Este agave lo conviertan en forraje, nos ayude a recuperar los suelos en el futuro con vistas a la captura de CO2, pero también como cultivo de uso múltiple para que las comunidades puedan no solamente reforestar, sino en el corto plazo tener beneficios de lo que ellos están plantando. A la iniciativa de 4x1000, pero para hacerlo realidad, cuando ya pusimos en blanco y negro el programa de atención a cambio climático, reforestación, regeneración de suelo, agua y empleo temporal, pusimos como punta de lanza para San Miguel de Allende inscribirse en la Alianza Global de Distritos Orgánicos. Es muy importante. Un buen banco de información, un buen banco de proyectos y experiencias que nosotros podemos incorporar a nuestra experiencia propia.
I would like to thank Mr. Basile, and now I will invite Mr. Wayne Honeycutt, the CEO of Soil Health Institute, to make his speech. Over to you, Mr. Honeycutt.
Hello, bonjour. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. We all know that improving soil health is good for farmers and for the environment. For farmers, it helps to increase available water holding capacity, enhance nutrient cycling, and also enhance drought resilience, reduce nutrient losses, increase yield stability, increase profitability. But also it's very good for the environment. It can increase carbon sequestration, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, can improve water quality, increase biodiversity, and many others. But to achieve these environmental benefits at scale, we really need to increase the levels of adoption of these soil health practices and systems. So that's why our comprehensive strategy at the Soil Health Institute puts adoption at the very center of our goal. Now, in order to achieve that adoption, we feel like it's very important that we first ask, what does a producer need to know when deciding whether to adopt new management practices? The first piece of information they tell us that they need is information on the business case. Will it increase or reduce their profitability? We've just recently completed interviewing 125 farmers on their economic experiences with adopting these soil health systems to help answer that question. They also need to know the best way to measure it. So we have just evaluated over 30 different types of measurements and indicators of soil health at 124 long-term research sites across the US, Canada, and Mexico in order to provide the most effective measurements for everyone to use. They also need locally based and locally relevant education and training programs. In our training program, we not only use local technical specialists, but also local farmers who are already successful at implementing those practices in our training programs. Of course, all this is also backed up by a strong research and development program. Some of our research is in understanding the soil microbiome and how it changes when adopting these soil health systems, but also developing a decision support tool so farmers can achieve a targeted increase in available water holding capacity when they increase adoption of these soil health systems. Even when we do all of these things and get greater adoption, we feel like it is important we do not stop there, but that we also quantify the impacts of that adoption, because quantifying the impacts on productivity ties right back into the business case, but also impacts on carbon sequestration, water quality, and other environmental benefits really helps us inform our policies. It also gives us the information we need to educate consumers on the environmental benefits of these soil health systems. Because what we really want to do is increase market demand for more food, fiber, and fuel that's grown using these soil health systems. So this becomes a more self-sustaining system, not as dependent upon, for example, federal assistance for farmers to adopt these systems. So that's the overall comprehensive strategy that we use at the Soil Health Institute. We're a nonprofit, but we invite all collaborations, everyone of interest to reach out to us. I hope to hear from many of you on how we might be able to work together on some of these things. We are working internationally now. We hope to expand that effort. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Honeycutt, and thank you very much for synthesizing all these issues in one slide. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Guy Capdeville, Director of Research and Development of Embrapa, Empresa Brasileira de Pesquisa Agropecuaria. Over to you, Mr. Capdeville.
Hello, I'm Guy de Capdeville. I'm the Executive Director for Research and Development of Embrapa. I would like to begin my speech by greeting the members and organizers of Forum 4/1000. It is a pleasure for Embrapa to participate in this very important initiative. Embrapa is an agricultural research institution with about 8,500 employees, of which about 2,400 are PhDs who work with the development of sustainable technological solutions for the Brazilian agribusiness. One of our main research actions is focused on sustainable management and preservation of our soils. For this, we have several programs, such as PronaSolos, which is a program that Embrapa and the Ministry of Agriculture have developed to map the soils of all Brazilian regions, considering aspects related to their type, structure, fertility, as well as aspects related to their microbiological composition. All of this information is collected and inserted into a computerized system that allows us to manage this information to support decision-making in many areas and even establishment of public policies. But Brazil is very concerned with the maintenance and preservation of our soils, as we consider this to be the greatest asset available to our farms. For Embrapa, soils are so important that there is a research unit totally dedicated to the topic. This research unit works in partnership with 42 other units, integrating research on the development of cultivars and other research fronts, with the need for sustainable use of our soils where they are cultivated. Thus, to conclude, I would like to inform you that Embrapa is organizing a publication that will present all the technologies that save land that Embrapa has produced in recent years. Finally, Embrapa is available for scientific partnership in the field of agribusiness, and I invite you to visit Embrapa and Brazil anytime as close as possible after this pandemic, of course, but we can receive you here, discuss partnership together, and hopefully we can set collaborations for solving problems on many areas in the agribusiness thematic. So please be free to contact us, and I hope soon we may meet personally. My best wish to you all, and I wish you a great event.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guy de Capdeville. And now I would like to call Mr. Nkulomo Zinyangere from the World Bank. Over to you, Mr. Zinyangere. Is Mr. Zinyangere online?
Yes, but we cannot hear him. It's his screen, but we cannot hear him.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, superb. And I've just projected my screen. Do you see that?
We just see the page, not yet the full screen. Yes, that's okay.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Nkulomo Zinyangere, and I'm with the World Bank. I am presenting on behalf of my global director, Martin van Nakop, who sent his apologies, had joined earlier, but unfortunately had to dash off to another meeting. So to start off, I'll just say, you know, we have this very clear understanding of the importance of soil health and increasing investments in soil health. I think there's a very important case that we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2020. And, you know, in our agriculture sector, as we go on to feed 10 billion people, it's important to do that without using more land, and also be cognizant of climate resilience and lowering greenhouse gas accounting. And in this case, that you know, soils do present a very important opportunity in this, and so making a very important case for soil as a low-hanging option for investment. And in the World Bank, we are committed in this agenda, and this is demonstrated very importantly by an increase in our climate core benefits, which, as you see, have been doubling over time since 2016 and right after COP21. And the driver of these increase in these core benefits is very much strongly a lot of the climate smart interventions that we do, a lot of them which really speak directly to enhancing soil health. And in that way, we also do look at soil health as soils as an important public health good. And so as a result, as also very much being ripe for investments coming from the public sector. And so this makes a very important case for repurposing some of the public resources that are already very large, that we're very much aware of, so that they go into investments and interventions that are important towards soil health. And this is something that at the World Bank, we are already really looking at and working on to try and help our governments, clients to be able to redirect some of their investments towards soil health. And so there's a very large potential here, but in order for us to be able to make it work, of course, it's very important that there are solid, consistent, accurate, and comparable MRV protocols to be able to direct that investment. And so the finance community really requires these MRV protocols to be put in place and to be strong in order to be able to drive investments. And at the World Bank, we have been putting quite a little bit of effort to try and also look into these MRV protocols, particularly in support of some of our investments, which have very important soil health implications. For instance, this project in Kazakhstan that you see projected here, where a lot of the work there that is actually going in has a potential to be able to sequester large amounts of carbon. But of course, an MRV system is required to do that. And we've been working with quite a number of partners, and recently with Per1000, bringing together a number of different stakeholders to really discuss this issue and try to push it forward. We think these fit-for-purpose MRV systems are really very important to drive investments, and we do see a role here for Per1000 to really step in and try to pull together the different actors in this space so that we do have these MRVs to direct investment towards these areas. So with this, I would like to thank you for the time and the opportunity to be able to speak on this issue. And as the World Bank, we are very active in this space and always looking to work and collaborate with partners on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zinyangere, for this short and concise, precise presentation. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite Mr. David Antonioli, the CEO of Vera.
Hello. Yes, thank you. Hello, bonjour, y bienvenidos, y buenas tardes, buenos días to everybody. Thank you for the invitation to present to this illustrious panel and audience. We're very grateful for the important work that Per1000 is doing to convene policymakers and practitioners around the globally critical issue of restoring soil health, which offers the potential to deliver numerous benefits, including climate stability, food security, improved livelihoods, and environmental conservation. At Vera, we manage the VCS program, which is the largest greenhouse gas crediting program in the world, and it accounts for 2/3 of all voluntary carbon market transactions. In short, the VCS program sets out rules and procedures that govern the creation of carbon credits. We therefore provide a trusted, robust, and user-friendly program that brings quality assurance to carbon markets. And in the last few years, we have invested a considerable amount of effort and resources to support the agricultural sector in its efforts to achieve scale to restore soil health, fight climate change, and provide sustainable and resilient livelihoods. All of this through the lens of using and leveraging carbon finance as a tool to drive finance so that we can actually achieve these things on the ground. In early 2020, we convened a 17-member agricultural land management working group comprised of global experts from a variety of sectors, including academia, policy, and project design and development. The idea here was to bring together some expertise and really help us understand what it was that we could do to better support the development of regenerative agriculture and soil health throughout our program. And this working group has been instrumental in informing the evolution of our work to promote soil health, and has led to 5 concrete outcomes. The first is a series of updates to our rules and requirements, our toolkit, if you will, intended to streamline agricultural carbon and soil health projects within the VCS program. There's a number of accounting methodologies. So this was about how do we provide an overall framework that helps to develop, that enables the development of more of these projects. Second were specific enhancements to existing VCS agricultural sector methodologies. Third was the development of new methodologies, such as the recently approved methodology developed by Indigo Ag, which really promotes regenerative agriculture across farmers throughout the world by, again, driving and leveraging carbon finance. We're in the process of beginning to develop a methodology to account for biochar projects, and also we're considering some work to do in the agroforestry sector. Fourth is the establishment of soil organic carbon performance benchmarks for baseline setting across entire geographies. And finally is the incorporation of emerging technologies for monitoring, reporting, and verification, including remote and proximal sensing and artificial intelligence and machine learning. As you can imagine, all of this is a big package that fits together. And so we're looking at all the different pieces of the puzzle that help drive finance and leverage carbon finance to promote soil health. So these are exciting times. Vera is very pleased to contribute its expertise in developing robust and workable approaches to quantifying the soil carbon and health benefits of sustainable land management in a collective effort to realize the enormous potential that the agricultural sector offers in fighting the mounting impacts of climate change and environmental degradation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to everybody. Cheers. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Antonioli, for your presentation. And now let me invite Mrs. Ana Beatriz Wingeyer, Coordinator Soil Carbon Sequestration to Mitigate Climate Change at the Instituto Nacional de Tecnología Agropecuaria de Argentina. Over to you.
Thank you. My camera is not, there we go. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias por este espacio. Mi nombre es Ana Wingeyer, soy investigadora del Instituto Nacional de Tecnología Agropecuaria, el INTA, de Argentina, y actualmente soy coordinadora del Proyecto Nacional Estrategias de Producción para el incremento del secuestro de carbono en el suelo y mitigar el cambio climático. Mi intención es comentar 3 acciones concretas que está liderando el INTA y que están relacionadas específicamente con la iniciativa 4x1000. Quisiera saber si están viendo la presentación.
Sí, se puede ver.
Perfecto. Bien, como les comentaba, la primera acción es involucrar a la comunidad científica, académica y productiva sobre la iniciativa 4x1000. El INTA organizó un taller virtual sobre la iniciativa durante el Congreso Argentino de la Ciencia del Suelo en octubre de 2020, y los objetivos fueron dar a conocer la iniciativa, los beneficios del secuestro de carbono en el suelo y generar un intercambio de experiencias sobre cómo impactan los cultivos de cobertura, los cultivos de servicio, en las reservas de carbono de suelos de diferentes ambientes de Argentina. En el 2021 se planean acciones de divulgación en interacción con las organizaciones de productores. Tuvieron que ser pospuestas debido a la situación de pandemia. La segunda está relacionada a la extinción. El INTA presentó el mapa de carbono del suelo de Argentina desde la Semana Nacional de Acción Climática en 2019. Este mapa cuenta con más de 5.000 puntos de observaciones de suelo, de los cuales 75% corresponden a sitios del sistema del Plan Mapa de Suelos de Argentina y un 25% a relevamientos campos específicos para este mapa. En base a este mapa de reservas de carbono del suelo y proyectando una tasa de incremento del 0,4% anual, tendríamos entre 1,5 a 98 gramos de carbono por metro cuadrado por año de secuestro, es decir, unas 57.000 toneladas de carbono por año en los primeros 30 centímetros del suelo, lo cual representa un tercio de las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero del sector agricultura, ganadería y alimentación. A través del proyecto que coordino, se está trabajando en la estimación de las tasas de secuestro potencial de carbono de diferentes sistemas agropecuarios en diferentes ecorregiones de Argentina. Respecto a la tercera acción que quiero mencionarles, es el monitoreo activo de las reservas de carbono en los suelos agropecuarios argentinos. En octubre de 2019, el INTI inició un proyecto nacional con la finalidad de monitorear el estado de erosión, la salinidad, las reservas de carbono en el suelo, entre otras variables. Durante el 2020 se elaboraron los protocolos de muestreo para suelos agrícolas, ganaderos y forestales y se iniciaron los relevamientos de campo. Este proyecto incorporará más de 4.000 sitios de monitoreo continuo, georreferenciados que se revisitan cada 3 a 4 años. Esta información generada se visualiza a través de un sistema de información territorial, utilizando Google Earth Engine, y permite actualizar el mapa de las reservas de carbono con una frecuencia de aproximadamente 4 años. Y con esto, muchísimas gracias por su atención y por este espacio para compartir nuestro trabajo.
Muchas gracias a usted. Alors, nous sommes arrivés à la fin de toutes les présentations qui devaient être faites, ainsi que des différents discours, des différentes vidéos qui avaient été enregistrées. Il y a des points extrêmement importants qui ont fait l'objet d'analyses, de commentaires. Ce n'est pas le moment tout de suite d'aller aux conclusions, car nous avons une session de 25 minutes maintenant, which will be open to farmers of the world so that they can express themselves and take the floor. So we are ready to listen.
That will be Mr. Chairman, that will be Mr. Tom Godard who will present the result of the questionnaire.
Perfect. Perfect.
I think Tom is online.
Yes. So if Tom is online, I hand over to Tom then. Okay. Thank
you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayaki. I will share my screen if I may.
And put your camera on.
Can you see that?
Not yet. But,
we cannot.
Can you see that now?
It's coming. It's announced.
Is that all right?
No. Very sorry for that. So Tom, I suggest that maybe we can start showing the video that was supposed to come after you, and we will fix your technical problem while the video is running. Okay, certainly. Antonius, can you send the video?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, I need you to stop your screen sharing so I can share mine.
Well, we cannot stop sharing the screen.
You did?
Tom, if you're here, can you stop sharing your screen?
I can, but I can't get.
I think if you have problem, the best would be to quit the meeting and connect again.
All right.
Are you still there, Tom, or did you leave? Okay, so we have a problem. Okay, we are stuck, and Tom Goddard is no more there.
Okay.
How can we? Well, very sorry for that.
It's okay. Maybe I can fill that empty space by, you know, synthetic points about what I heard.
Yes.
Okay, good. So let me first say that we heard very extremely pertinent comments, and I don't feel competent enough to make a restitution that would be fair, full, and comprehensive. But I heard several things. The first point is about sustainability versus regeneration. And we heard at the beginning that sustainability is not sufficient when we are working with broken systems, quote unquote. And that's why regeneration comes as an essential concept, and soils have to be regenerated, and we need to go towards regeneration agriculture. So that's the first point, sustainability versus regeneration. The second point we heard, which is important and mentioned by Tony Simons, is for Per1000 is a triple win on the climate side, mitigation, adaptation, on food security and biodiversity. L'autre point, c'est que les deux points précédents s'inscrivent parfaitement dans la course que nous devons mener vers la neutralité carbone. We talk frequently about paradigm shift, but I think this is much more than a paradigm shift. It's a full systemic change which needs to happen because we are in a climate emergency, and soils are have a critical role to play in order to solve these problems. And that leads us to think that agriculture should not be looked at as a problem in this new approach, but should be looked at as a solution. And in order to be looked at as a solution, we need to go towards adoption of best practices by producers. And thinking about best practices leads us to thinking about bankable projects and leads us to thinking about financing, which leads us to think that the other point which was mentioned, that soil health is national wealth. Another important point mentioned was the issue of measurement. And it came back several times. The better we measure carbon sequestration, we build the arguments that lead us to build more credibility. And I think it's very important for the initiative to put a focus on this aspect of measurement. And I will end by going back to this quote of national health, soil health is equal to national wealth. It leads us, and there are many economists here, to reconnect this to the issue of calculation of our GDPs, which is totally antiquated. And I think in a post-COVID world, we will not think about national wealth in the same manner. And soil health will have to play a critical role. So these are my not complete conclusions to offer. And if a video is ready, we can move to the video.
Thank you. Antonius, you can send the video, please. Antonius?
From India, running an organization called Kheti, which is working for community development program through regenerative agroforestry in rural Bihar. I will represent India as a farmer and would like to share my experience from the ground on the occasion of soil health to fight climate change in the context of One Health and the needed international solidarity. The benefits what we are observing during this transition phase, there is increasement in biodiversity below and above ground, water percolation rate through our land. The main challenges what we are facing is there is a lack of resources in rural setup like nursery, seed banks, skilled and trained farmers. And to get that resources, we have to travel a lot to get all the resources. We have right access of technology and technical advices for our current phase, but need support for further advancement. We are working with a government initiative project which align to our project. We have a good relationship with our consumer because they know the importance of healthy food during this COVID time and the taste of the fruits from our farm. And yes, I think the 4x2000 initiative is possible to keep living and productive soil around the globe. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paulo Garcia. I am from Mexico, from the Guanajuato state. I work for the farmers of the Guanajuato state through the Masar Guanajuato program. This program is supported by the state government and the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center. Conservation agriculture in Guanajuato has a history of more than 25 years. Currently, the efforts of those years are visible for the sowing of corn, however, not so for wheat. To improve this, we identify that conservation agriculture is not only a tool to improve yields and profitability, but it is also the best tool to restore soil fertility. We found different reasons why its adoption has not increased. One of them is the absence of machinery to solve the issue of fertilizer management. Straw burning is a big problem, information and transfer absences, and cultural issue with the straw management. Regarding machinery, we are working in 2 projects with the local machinery companies to solve the problem, thinking about climate, smart machinery. We have relationships with the main companies that use the basic product for the transformation and search the way of transfer of this practice throughout their value chain. Finally, I think the 4x1000 initiative is a great strategy to raise awareness and work together to visualize it. Agriculture has the best tool to improve all work.
Thank you for the 4x1000 initiative for asking my testimony. I am a farmer in the south of Champagne in France on a 100-hectare farm. I grow cereal crops, hemp, grow seeds for pastures and cover crops. I have a master's degree in agronomy. I took over the family farm 8 years ago and immediately started conservation agriculture, which is for me an agronomic evidence. As defined by the FAO, the 3 pillars of conservation agriculture are permanent soil organic cover, diversity of cultivated plants, and no mechanical disturbance of the soil. Our first job as farmers is to produce more food to respond to the global demand and rising population. Conservation agriculture is a virtuous cycle that trusts and respects the soil and nature That means nourishing soil with our crops and cover crops, protecting the life of our soil with no tillage. This will improve the soil's quality and agriculture's resilience while maintaining high production. Conservation agriculture protects and restores soil function. It fixes soil carbon, protects the soil surfaces from erosion, and enhances moisture infiltration. Higher soil carbon increases nutrients and their cycles. High-quality soils and permanent cover crop enhance soil biodiversity, which in turn attracts larger animals and birds. Conservation agriculture is not easy and quick to implement. It's a revolution in the head for the farmer, which demands to them to go against tradition, withstand the gaze of others, and take multiple risks. It takes time to change practices, to learn to trust nature, and to restore soil fertility. Farmers need to see the success of others, not to be alone to learn and go forward. You have to give them time to acquire the techniques. You have to maintain the ability of their tools, herbicide, pesticides, fertilizer, and you have to recognize the benefits and risks taken in their transition. We, farmers, have built and are still building our own corpus of technical solutions to make conservation agriculture system work. In network with other farmers, we learn a lot from each other. In France, we are connected inside APAD and other local groups. APAD is also connected to other conservation agriculture farmers associations all around the world, connected into the global conservation agriculture network. International recognized scientists and experts of conservation agriculture give us support by their knowledge and expertise. Up to now, in France, the scientific community has shown little interest and support. In France, conservation agriculture represents about 3% of farmers. We need to be heard by politicians. We need them to understand the real benefits of conservation agriculture, to take political decisions that favors this system. Every time we directly reach citizens in our fields or through media, we have success. A recent study shows that citizens love conservation agriculture farmers when we explain it ourselves directly. They like to hear what we do and how we do, even if it's not perfect, by improving year after year. Our interest for us farmers in the Per1000 initiative is to make our voice heard by government officials. There is an urgent need to move to conservation agriculture. It is the only solution to mitigate climate change. There is urgency because it takes time for a farmer to convert, and every year it becomes more difficult to convert since climate has already changed.
Hi, my name is Emiliano Mrowe. I'm the CEO and founder of Work Africa. In Africa, over 500 million farmers juggle between the realities of hunger and protecting their soils. One bad harvest can result in hunger, and at the beginning of the season, the farmers typically stand at the edge of their farms, and in front of them they have a couple of acres covered with grasses that are 6 feet tall, and they need to clear them down for the season. And at that point, they basically have two options: either spend 30 or 40 days cutting the grasses down, or simply to burn them. So it's pretty obvious that they choose to burn them in 30 minutes or in an hour, and they still need to prepare their land after that work, you know. So it's also fairly obvious that the lack of mechanization is one of the biggest challenges for soil preservation, especially in tropical smallholder farmers environment, but one challenge we've done very little to solve. This can change. We are completely convinced that farmers can be the drivers of growth, employment, food production, but above everything they can become the protectors of humanity's most precious resource, our soils. We are a social enterprise based out of Sierra Leone and Ghana. We work with over 1,000 farmers, and our objective is to stack the decks for the farmers by designing and supplying a bundle of regenerative agricultural inputs as a service. So this bundle is based on introducing crop rotations, applying improved inputs and practices, but most importantly, providing no-till planting services. So instead of the farmer having to spend a month hoeing the fields and then another 10 or 15 days planting by hand, a no-till planting machine can do that in a couple of hours while helping them protect their soils. So this, in addition, frees up a lot of time so that they can use for other income, to generate other income streams. In this part of the world, unfortunately, government incentives are very limited. So we think that 4 per 1,000 can help gain awareness that protecting soils is extremely important, not only in temperate developed economies, but even more important in tropical areas where the soils are more prone to erosions. And we think that, or they can also help us understand that the 500 million farmers in Africa have the potential to store gigatons of carbon while producing the food that an ever-increasing world population needs, moving away or emerging from being the forgotten farmers to becoming some of the climate heroes in the world.
Hello, I am Gabriel Carvajal, agriculture and livestock farmer from Uruguay, South America. I am also part of the Global Farmer Network, which is an organization of farmers from around the world. There are many obstacles and challenges in implementing conservation agriculture, but the benefits exceed only any of those, and particularly the 4 per 1,000 is crucial for demonstrating the importance of the soil. Not only in producing food, but also in improving the environment. At the same time, we improve the soil. So this is a virtuous circle. It's a win-win situation, and we must tell this story. So I thank you a lot for this opportunity. And once again, I believe farmers' voice is tremendously important. Thank you.
We started in 2015 with leaving some field untouched or just a light harrowing, and from 2018 have we been planted all directly. The main benefit in the short term is the saving on labor, wearing parts, fuel, etc. And no more runoff from sloppy fields and no more dusty storms on sandy fields in the spring. The political debate on glyphosate caused some European farmers to refrain from switching to the no-till principle. We rely on access to glyphosate to succeed with no-till. It's not a problem to have access to any other source of technology. The challenge is to choose the right one for your need.
The tough pandemic times have furthered the access to technology via internet. 4 per 1,000 will surely give a holistic approach to the Indian farmers also. I'm sure in the coming decade, many farms will become icons of conservative agriculture.
¿Hay problemas en la siembra directa? No, hay problemas en la agricultura mal hecha.
Nuestros suelos tenían hambre.
Sabemos que el suelo no hay que dejarlo descansar, sino que al suelo hay que darle de comer, porque el suelo está vivo.
No puede tener el suelo parado, la actividad biológica se va a resentir.
Tenemos que salir de la simplificación de los sistemas, volverlos a complejizar para parecernos más a la naturaleza.
Cuando hablamos de no descanso, no alcanza a contener el suelo cubierto. Esa cobertura en lo posible tiene que ser viva.
Mantenerse verdes lo más tiempo posible.
La herramienta que tenemos hoy para producir de forma sustentable.
Al principio todos nos miraban como locos, ¿viste? No entendían lo que estábamos haciendo. Hecho de gastar en una siembra, en algo que no vas a cosechar.
El suelo no necesita descansar, nos dimos cuenta de eso y así estamos actuando.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have listened to the farmers through this very lucid and rich video. So now I will hand over to Maria Beatriz Pilou Giraudot to say a few words.
Mr. Mayaki,
Oui.
sorry, the presentation will be done by Marc Bernard. So you can give the floor to Marc. He will do the presentation in the name of Tom Godard.
Okay, so it's solved then. Okay, so Marc can do it. Okay, over to you then. Okay. Over to you, Marc. Okay.
terrible.
Yes, Mark, you can speak. We can see your screen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Hello, everybody. Happy to be with you. For those that don't know me yet, I'm with CAPUL since a year. I'm quite happy to present this and take the place of Tom, who has a connectivity problem, Natasha, who has a flu. Anyway, this survey was made we launched it 15 days ago, and to gather the voices of farmers, we sent out a questionnaire to about 300 participants. And how does that work? So what we actually did is we asked the NGOs, who are very often in contact with farmer organizations and the farmer organizations themselves. You have enormous challenges for a transition from the present system of agriculture to a more resource or regenerative system, farming systems. Now, of course, this is clear that this goes. It's a challenge to society as a whole, and we asked a simple question. We asked them to answer simple questions. What should you do to empower producers to adopt improved farming and land use practices on a large scale? This question was put them, so we asked for farmers to address these questions to different stakeholder groups. Now, these were a bit the responses. You see, we had about quite an equal number on the different stakeholder groups. So they tried to give an answer. What should governments do, private sector, international and regional organizations? Research and education, producer organizations, civil society, and the Copper Millet Initiative. Now, let's start what they expected from themselves. They said they should engage into training and exchange. Mutual exchange between producers is important. They also think it is important to stop judging each other and say, listen, who's doing the better? Everybody's trying as good as he can. And they should stop judging each other, but be objective, open-minded, and question one's own way of doing, and seek credible evidence for whatever they are endeavoring. I think another point which goes close to this is self-awareness came out by two participants. Just to review their own farming practice, just to sit back and think about how are we actually practicing, what is it doing to my soils, and what is this, is it a generative nature or is it something which it builds up soil? So be self-reflective. And then also to go a bit beyond short-term benefits and really think about what is this going to be when I go down this road in 10, 20 years from now. And the third point producers should especially address is solidarity. I think it's very important for producers to get organized. That's one person has said that and needed. Get political support and being solidarity and ask for it and claim for it. So strengthen their position. Now, producer organizations are the second most important group to which they responded. First of all, they think they should, producer organizations should do everything possible to organize farmers. That is the most important to strengthen their capacity to come up for their interests. The second is they should provide assistance to farmers through networking and other better understanding of the barriers and the conditions in which they are farming. They also think producer organizations have an important role to take leadership role, and then also to make awareness raising, especially the private sector, and with international ethical cooperation movements leading sustainable development goals and better agricultural practice. So raise awareness at other levels would help a lot. And then, of course, the last point which came out also is negotiating fair prices. That would be a major expectation from producer organizations. And I think this includes not just food, but also ecosystem services. We have other points. I will go through them quickly. Governments and local authorities work on long-term policy guidelines. This was the 10 of the respondents came out with this one. Others said increase technical advice, localize economy. So governments really to promote local farmers. That came out by 3 of the respondents point to that one. And carbon offsets would be another point which is important that governments and local authorities should address. And experiential research, make latest research accessible, develop training programs, step up collaboration with producers, strengthen research in these new areas that were highlighted this morning, and provide participatory practical solutions. So do adaptive research. From the private sector, more targeted assistance, improve awareness. They came out with 6 people. So responsible to act responsibly and also towards farmers and consider sustainable development goals in their business behavior. Revenue sharing, they should get a bigger share of the revenues from selling food. Promote local farmers. Also, the private sector should more favor local farmers and less depend on regional or global trade. Collaborative work with producers in terms of research development and best practice, and reward farmers who do practice regenerative agriculture. Now, international and regional organizations, again, awareness and advocacy, the dissemination of knowledge and support, technically and financial, and more profitable interventions, and linkage between actors and organizations. This is something they would expect from international organizations. Civil society, very similar but at a different level. Advocacy, stop agribashing. Yes, the civil society organizations sometimes have the attitude of being too much critical about farmers, but stop agribashing. Consume responsible. So they also say civil society has a responsibility as consumers to consume more responsible, and I would say less. Solidarity. NGO, civil society should really work towards solidarity among the different groups of society. The Capromel initiative, and they think what is important for a marketplace of positive initiatives. So showcase good examples and being positive. To disseminate information, Capromel should also be a door where people can get in touch with farmers, and also to support farmers to get a carbon offset for their efforts to sequestrate carbon. Those are the 4 main points they're expecting that came out of this survey. Now, I must say that the common themes are collaboration, leadership, research and exchange, financing. These are the main points. You can actually look up this, I think Paul can share the link. You can look at this presentation with more time, and maybe drop a comment below the presentation. You have a comment section where you can drop a comment and give us feedback on what you think about these farmer opinions. We will surely share the results of this survey once we have evaluated it fully. It is still ongoing, but it's quite interesting to exchange and to get into dialogue with people out there through these different electronic medias, and especially the survey tools prove to be something which really brings up a dialogue that we direly need. Okay, thanks a lot, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark, for this wonderful synthesis. So now, let me invite Maria Beatriz Pilou-Giraudot to say a few words. Over to you, Maria Beatriz.
Thank you very much. I don't know why I cannot start my video. I'm not allowed.
Yes, you're supposed to be allowed, but we cannot.
Now, yes, okay. To work with you, Mark,
yes, it works now.
And Paul, of course. Thank you very much for Per1000 initiative, for the opportunity for being protagonists through the College of Farmers. We have the honor of hearing voices from all around the world, commitment to social organization. These voices show the conviction for a global agriculture based on the paradigm of care, regeneration, and improvement, with complex systems emulating nature and living definitively behind the old paradigm of deterioration based on pillage and other harmful practices. From SHICAN, the Global Conservation Agriculture Network, we try to bring together farmer associations, reference, and hopefully we can deepen links with policymakers as well to promote conservation agriculture based on low tillage, permanent soil organic cover, crop rotation, not only diversification, but also sustainable intensification as an umbrella and mandatory for the different production. It is not about one agriculture or the other. They are all necessary. The only condition is that they are under the principle of the conservation agriculture. We have the knowledge, the traditional knowledges, and the innovative knowledge and tools and technologies to leave soils in better conditions than those received by the new generations for the very first time in the history of the world. Thanks to the Per1000 for allowing to work together farmers, decision makers, and scientists. It's crucial to be successful with the shared objectives and to amplify and complex the proposal as Dr. Ibrahim MAYAKI summarized and warned all of us today. Thank you very much for the voice of farmers. I am Maria Giraudo from Argentina, 5th generation of farmers, and with 30 years of no-till farming in my country.
Thank you. Thank you very much for these comments, which are extremely useful and based on a solid foundation of experience. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I think we have come to the end of a high-level segment. Dr. Liu?
Yes.
And it is with great pleasure that I would like to thank all those who intervened. This presentation ended with a voice of the farmers, which is a very capital voice in whatever we do. So let me reiterate my warm thanks. And we should celebrate the fact that even if it was virtually, the level of richness of our interactions was very high. And we will remember these particular moments. Thanks to you all. And now we will take a break, I think, Mr. Liu.
Yes, 5 minute break.
5 minutes, let's say 7 minutes break. Huh? Let's say 7 minutes break, and then we will continue with a meeting of Forum of Partners.